Yo, it's your boy DZ, man. You already know it's not about the setback, it's about the get back, man. We're going to get in this YSL closing arguments. It's real.
I wanted to talk to you about what we've learned YSL is about. And four words come to mind. The first word, deception, intimidation, destruction, and death. Deception of the youth who get enamored with what is presented publicly and then deceived when they become a part of the criminal enterprise. Deception for law enforcement to not uncover the actions that they commit, and deception in this very courtroom with witnesses that have sat right before you to try to continue that enterprise. Intimidation, the public videos we've seen about people that they label as rats, people that they label as snitches or snitching.
They going into detail with them. And we going to see they putting everything back in front of the jury again to try to convince them.
The destruction has multiple parts. You've heard from multiple communities all throughout Fulton County that often similar pockets in the city have been affected, from dealing drugs, to robberies, the shootings, the shell casings, the windows, the doors, the refrigerators, the cars, over and over. That's the destruction. And then you've heard about the death. Jeffrey Williams himself said, YSL, in this video after he says murder gang, someone right next to him says YSL till we're dead pale. But also, you've heard about three murders: Donovan Thomas, Chanel Drinks, and Jamari Hunt. That is what YSL, the criminal enterprise, is about. Now, I'm going to talk to you about Count 1 RICO and Criminal Street Gang. And so, when I am complete, at the end, Ms. Hilton will come up and talk to you about the murder of Donovan Thomas and the murder of Chanel Drinks and the remaining counts. Now, what I just said,
Yeah, bro.
is my words.
This the closing arguments.
This is the deception, intimidation, destruction, and death that I just spoke to you about. Murder gang in my slime is above the law. But in Fulton County, nobody is above the law. And that's why you're here.
Y'all already know why I said we dead and pale, bitch.
Murder gang, bitch.
Yeah.
Slack. No cap. No cap.
And we actually free.
You know that? Niggas all over.
Those are their own.
They going to replay this stuff all back to refresh the jury's memory about all these videos that they posted on Instagram.
I don't think y'all nigga got more than us is dead now.
This in your video?
And that was one of the guys that testified.
The only thing that they have is more people who are deceased, which is saying that we don't.
Make sure y'all hit that like button for me too.
Evidence we've been presented amply throughout this trial. They're rivals, they're odds. Atlanta Blood Gang, Fish Gang, Mountain Dew, Wild Thing, that too. And lastly, after publicly bragging and boasting about murders, what is their viewpoint on being held accountable? Well, let me take their own words. Don't just take mine.
Just beat a murderer. Pay my lawyer 30 for that. And my slimes above the law. Ain't walking no quitter.
That's saying my slimes are above the law. So now I'm going to equip you with the duty as jurors so that you can.
They gave them all the evidence, man.
Judge will instruct you
All the evidence.
so you can have the toolkits needed to deliberate and understand how to organize the evidence that we present. So that's what I'm going to here to do with you today. So I'm going to take a step back.
Hey, listen, the verdict, me honest, I think that they got a shot. But we definitely know Yak is a rat. So, and it's crazy. He went to trial knowing he was already a rat. That's the crazy thing. He went to trial knowing he was a rat. Thug embraced all these dudes that was willing to cooperate, though. That's the thing. Crazy.
Connections between these crimes, locations, victims, and accomplices that's important for Count 1 RICO. That's what I'm going to walk through with you about right now. The duty to deliberate. When all of this is done, all of y'all will go back there and speak with one another. Speak freely with one another. Go through the evidence and talk about what you've heard throughout this trial and talk with fellow jurors about the evidence as you reach your verdict. And like I said, seek the truth. Now,
Like, I think they got a shot, but I'm like, it's 50-50, man. Because a lot of the shootings and stuff were referenced to Yak and Shannon, so, and they the only ones left on trial. So if they can convince the jury that these guys were the shooters, these guys were doing the murders, they might be in trouble.
some issue that comes up in a case that's not about the evidence and the law.
Yeah, Yak is a rat. A few of them is rats, though. That's the thing. It's more than just Yak. It's a few of them dudes that's just rats, and they still running around in the street. They done put Woody all the way on. He's a rat, and they're saying that you know, they wishing the best for him now. They embracing him because he getting some money for being a rat. That's these dudes. Atlanta's crazy. Hey, listen, if they beat the case, right, and Thug took that 15, matter of fact, Thug took that 40-year plea. You know what I'm saying? With the 15 years probation. If they beat this case, Thug gonna look crazy. He gonna look like a fool because they're gonna push Thug to do something crazy in the street, and he might violate, man. You already know. Thug is back out there, and I'm sure, you know, he's forgetting about that 2.5 already. You know, a week out, people get the amnesia about that time he was in jail.
And so he gave me that look, and I said, all right, I'll do the marathon. And during that, expecting to run a half,
Yeah.
day running a full, I had moments where I wanted to quit. I had moments I wanted to walk. I had moments where I wasn't ready, I wasn't prepared, I didn't sign up for this, even though technically I agreed to the marathon. And as I got to the end, like we are here, I said, if I walk off on mile 21 or 20, all of this will be for nothing. And I will regret that. So with this time, I ask you to see it through, finish strong, and by that I mean listen to the closing arguments and deliberate with one another in the evidence. Because you owe it to yourself, you owe it to the victims, and you owe it to your duty.
But it's real crazy, though. If y'all look at the prosecutors, right, they all wearing red.
Because I can't go back and
Look at the ladies, Miss Love and Hilton. They both wearing red.
this time valuable.
They representing the Bloods.
Heard a lot about RICO,
They want this conviction.
not yet had anyone explain what that means. So
That's deep.
my goal, and that's what I'm here to
Make sure y'all hit that like button for me too, man.
do. Law how it fits into this evidence.
And share this video.
Deliberate and reach
If they beat it, Thug gonna be second guessing not fighting it. Cause I felt he had a good chance. I definitely felt Thug had a major chance to beat it. His constitutional rights was violated all the way through the trial.
I speak faster than I click. So
He had a major chance of beating it.
like I said,
But this happens to most people. They get scared in this situation. When they have to fight after they talk that heavy talk, that they ready to take it to trial, they get scared. And we gonna be real.
has always had the burden of proof to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's a burden that I own. It's how it should be. And so the state, this burden of proof rests with it until we prove each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt. What is a reasonable doubt? Everyone's heard that term, but what does it actually mean? It's not a mathematical certainty.
Reasonable doubt means it needs to be without a doubt.
It is a doubt that's reasonable. It's not vague. And so this presumption, I use a quote, right, where you're presumed innocent. Everyone is. Until
But they don't do that to us, man. They say that you're presumed innocent, but they always treat us as we guilty before they see if we innocent. And that ain't gonna never change.
you may have realized halfway through my speech today when you understand RICO that they're guilty. You might have come to that conclusion months ago. You may have come to that conclusion in terms of where we are in the evidence as you walk through it. At a different point. But when the state proves, as we have beyond a reasonable doubt, that cloak of innocence goes away. And that's what you as jurors are here to decide. And reasonable doubt, like I said, it's reasonable. You don't seek out.
But then we think about this, right? If Thug didn't take the plea and he got found guilty and he got life, he would have been wishing he took that plea. And Thug knew in his mind he was guilty of some of these things. He had a chance to beat it, but he knew in his mind he was guilty. So that's like a decision that a person in that situation has to weigh because they got to live with that decision. And there's people right now that are sitting in jail that wish they would have took the probation to get out. And they sitting there serving life 20, 30 years and wish they would have took it. I was seeing 42 Doug on something the other week saying about his brother. They offered him a plea of I think 10 years. He didn't take it. They gave him 30. So it can happen.
And all of you will immediately recognize what it is. And like I said, it's not a mathematical certainty. It is reasonable doubt. That's the dollar bill, right? If you have pieces of the puzzle, and some of y'all may like puzzles that are removed, everyone knows that that's a $1 bill. There's no reasonable doubt that that is a $1 bill, even though almost 50% of it is gone. That's just a visual illustration to prove the point. Direct and circumstantial evidence. So direct evidence, physical items, it's what's said in this witness box before you, personal observations, that's all direct. Circumstantial evidence can be cell phone records, where people are within a general radius.
This stuff be a lot for juries to take in. People got to go back and process this stuff that never even heard of these things, and they got to make a decision on somebody's life. That's how it is. It gets crazy in trial. And honestly, right, I wouldn't have took the plea if I was these boys anyway. Even though the boy Yak is the police, he's a rat, he's telling, I wouldn't have took the plea anyway. I'm not taking the plea to 25 years. I'm not doing it. You got that whole time to fight and appeal to try to give it back and see what technicalities you can get on. But 25 years, oh man, that's signing up for something heavy. Okay, circumstantial evidence, and they breaking this down to the jury.
You never saw the gas go inside, but you know circumstantially that your car tank is full. That's a classic example of you may smell gas, but you never actually see it. You could, but most of the time you don't. That's circumstantial evidence. It can be quite strong, like that, like in that example. So it doesn't have any more or less weight than any other piece of evidence. Testimony of a single witness, if believed, is enough to establish a fact. Take Tarabia Hill, Act 61, the armed robbery that Christian.
And they're going to say testimony of a single witness is enough. No. Man, people lie all the time. I'm going to tell you that right now. Listen, people lie all the time, man. We ain't going for that stuff.
So that's one example of a single witness can establish. Sometimes it's only one fact. Where is someone? Where is someone not? But in that case, that testimony would be enough.
Man, you ain't never supposed to believe no one person that's trying to tell something. Nah. If they looking at multiple, then they can break it down. But just one person saying something, don't go for that. Because people lie every single day. Trust me.
Before their friends were indicted, before sitting in a courtroom with you and people that they know well. What do people say when no one's looking? On a wiretap, on a jail call. That, to me, is quite illuminating of how they really feel.
These boys was talking on the phones, jail phones, cell phones, posting on Instagram. So that's what makes it hard for them to get a not guilty verdict. They was talking on every site identifying the gang.
Why would he not come in here and testify about his friend Dexter Montgomery getting half of his head shot off?
I never understood though why these dudes rep the gang so hard and then get in court and don't want nothing to do with it. I never understood how that came about.
The reason you're closest to the jury box because y'all are the determiners of credibility, and y'all know
That doesn't even make sense.
talking right now.
It doesn't make sense to go that hard for a gang
Who doesn't have an interest, right?
and then get in jail and you don't want nothing to do with it. Then get in front of the judge, you don't want anything to do with it. It don't make sense.
They don't usually know the defendant. They don't know the case. They're just doing their job. They don't have, in my opinion, any stake in one outcome or the other. They don't know. A random citizen or Doug Bailey talked about the ankle monitor data. He's just reading the data. Those kind of witnesses, I argue to you, can be quite credible because they don't have anything to gain. They have nothing to lose. Think about people who do and how that would have impacted their testimony. Their opportunity for knowing facts. If someone hangs out with one another, like Gary Zachary, you saw all these photographs in 2015. He's in photo after photo with Shannon Stillwell, Monte Kendrick, Nikion Garlington. If someone interacts daily with someone, it's probably reasonable that he would know what they're up to, that they would confide in him. Versus if you had someone who only hung out with somebody one time, probably wouldn't be reasonable they'd know all their deepest, darkest secrets. That's just common sense.
And I'm going to be honest, right? This is why I tell people, they use other people against you all the time. Keep people away from you.
A lot of their kids, a lot of their brothers and sisters, then get ready in the courtroom and tell the God and his truth.
You see this, right? You see this, right?
Fucking killed, bro. From me and
Y'all see this? Everybody testified. All of them. Every one of them.
Witnesses who testified that were either co-conspirators or indicted on this case. And ask yourself,
Every one of these dudes testified, man.
was I right before if the state would ask YSL again? The word
Make sure y'all hit that like button too, man.
I know it's about to come off. Or I've never
Crazy.
I said game, G-A-N-E. I didn't say G-A-N-G, even though you just heard them say
It was best for Thug to take the plea, honestly, man.
would come in here.
All these dudes testifying, posting on Instagram about the YSL gang.
To murder Donovan Thomas the night of the murder. You don't think he's going to come in here and back up off that? Think about
Wow.
Willie Lee. The bragging or boasting about the murder. We put that on your tombstone. The things
Bragging and boasting about the murder.
in the trial of his friends.
Come on, man. What did they expect was going to happen? They should have knew this was all going to happen before it even got here. Honestly.
When he did his plea agreement, said that he had knowledge that someone was involved with the murder of Donovan Thomas, but then backs up off of it, right? He gives why. Think about why. And think about they know the feelings that these defendants have about people who come in and tell on them. And sometimes they slip up. If you remember Antonio Sumlin, who testified pretty recently, he didn't know Willie Lee's name. So he said, what's his slime? And he changed it. He stopped. He took a little pause and he meant what his nickname. But he said, what's his slime name? Those kind of clues or slip ups, remember those because they're important. Here's another example. This is Diamante Kendrick on the left with a hat that has big rat and big X on it. And on the right is defendant Stillwell's tattoo. Omerta, you heard that, the code of silence. And on his chest, the price of loyalty is wealth. The price of disloyalty is death. So these witnesses who say incriminating things about them in a police station or outside of court, when they come in here and are sitting in a witness box 10 feet from them, how do you think they know this? That's these defendants' own words about people who come in and testify against themselves or others. That's their feelings on it. Things that
They went and used their post and put it back on them.
Kenneth Copeland. This is Kenneth Copeland outside.
And this is who became the star from the case. The star witness.
YSL for life. You know what I mean?
Come on, man. This who became the star.
He has known
The police.
for almost the vast majority of his life. Most of these photos show the length of
And people embracing this guy. They forgetting he was in here testifying. Come on, man. They put these puppets in front of us, man. That's what keep us in the bottom. Straight puppets, man.
that's just common sense. And think about that when you hear what people say to a police station.
He said, the judge should give them 1 week. Should hear news the week about the situation. I heard Melly might get out by December. Yeah, Melly might get out, bro. Yeah, he might get out. If they beat it, yeah.
Plenty ammo for you monkey niggas. Yeah. Big guns beating right now.
Slant.
Now that's a video from May of 2015. Roughly February, March, April, 4 months after the murder of Donovan Thomas. That's what Pandera is exactly saying. You don't think he knows who did what? I argue to you. And then when he comes into court, right, he doesn't recognize a snake emoji, or he makes jokes about the color green, things that he thinks will hurt them. You all pick up on this. I saw you write notes. You can see their reaction. You can see if someone's uncomfortable, comfortable. All of those things you all are equipped with and can use when you weigh testimony. Parties to a crime. This is a principle that's going to come up in this case. Parties to a crime. Think about this. 4 people go to rob a bank. One of them is the getaway driver. One of them, I'm going to go run in and get the money. The third one's going to go in and do a distraction. And the fourth one has a gun in case it's needed. The driver never gets out of the car.
They want to identify that everybody's guilty, regardless. If they knew about it, they was there.
The guy with the gun behind him shoots and strikes the security guard. And then they all 4 get away and leave. As parties to a crime, they all played a role or a piece in that crime. So they would all be legally guilty of that murder if those facts came out into the trial. So party to a crime, it's not necessarily the person who pulled the trigger. It could be the driver. Now, this is going to show you an illustration of what I talked about, because this isn't at first stick out. So you have 4 people planning a bank robbery, all with different roles, and if it was either intentional murder or say the security guard shot and killed one of the robbers, it would be a felony murder that comes up. And so all of them would be guilty in this fact pattern of that. So in this case, what Copeland and Zachary say about defendant Kendrick is he was driving the Infiniti Q50. If he's driving that Infiniti Q50 while Shannon Stillwell, Demise, and Bowen are shooting 7.62 and 9mm shell casings into the body of Donovan Thomas with Justin Cobb doo-wop, that's party to a crime. That's the example of this case. And it will come up in some of the overt acts that we're going to talk about soon.
Mr. Atkins.
Yes, Your Honor. It sounds like, Your Honor, this microphone may have. Yes, Your Honor. If you let me know if that helps fix that. I got to fix this belt buckle here real quick. Well, I'll hold it for right now. Now, sorry, I want to talk about the crimes that I'm going to talk about. So in green is what I'm going to talk to you about, which count 51 is criminal street gang. Count 50 is criminal street gang of defendant Stillwell. He's on the right, and Kendrick is on the left. And count 1 RICO applies to both. So both are charged with the murder of Donovan Thomas. Kendrick has this count 57 participation in criminal street gang activity for the marijuana and firearms, like street gang activity during the commission of a felony for the May 9th, 2022. These street gang charges, which I'm going to talk to you about at the end, pertain to the murder of Shamel Drinks, a gang-related murder that the evidence has shown Shannon committed along with Demekion Garlington, Miles Farley, and Quarmavius Nichols. But first, I'm going to talk about RICO, which is count 1. which both are charged with. So I want to talk to you about conspiracy in general. And I definitely think the microphone's working now, Your Honor. So one crime, you rob someone, you do an arson, you would look at that case, did they go and set fire? Did they go and steal? One specific place, time, and perpetrator. You've already heard about a conspiracy to do armed robbery when I use that bank robbery analogy. RICO is no different in terms of this. The general concept is they're charged with conspiracy to commit racketeering. So I'm going to have to explain to you what is RICO, what is conspiracy to commit RICO, and then you as jurors, with the evidence that have been presented, will reach the only reasonable conclusion that they're guilty of that count. But you need to know what RICO is first. And there's two ways to violate RICO. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it bite by bite through RICO so you can understand the two ways that RICO can be committed and what conspiracy to commit RICO is. And we'll walk through this together. I've already explained conspiracy in general. Now, this bank, I've used the bank analogy. If this group who robbed the bank don't have to be some sophisticated mob syndicate, if those four are just sitting around and say, let's be the bank robbing boys, maybe we'll sell drugs on the side, and we'll shoot people, the rival bank group, and we're going to call ourselves the BRC, bank robbing crew. If they got tattoos of BRC, they got necklaces of BRC, they say, hey, we are BRC. If they went and all knowingly and willingly agreed to be a part of that, knowing that a pattern of racketeering, which I will explain to you, will be committed, that concept is what we'll be talking about. It's not any different in general. It's conspiracy and RICO. And when you put the two together, that's what they're charged with. So let's walk through this. This is from the indictment, which you will have with you when you deliberate. I'm not going to read off this right now, but page 12 of the indictment is an important page. It lays out what the state alleges the criminal objectives of the conspiracy are, and that they violated, there's a subsection A and a subsection B, which we're going to talk about. So remember page 12 of the indictment, because it will come up multiple times. So what is knowingly and willfully joined? Look at what they do, what they say, and crimes that they commit. If you wanted to figure out if the bank robbing crew or if YSL, if someone knowingly and willingly joined them, that's Kendrick on the bottom, with slat on his left forearm and a snake that goes from his stomach to his neck, and YSL a little bit underneath his Adam's apple. Do you think he knowingly and willfully joined YSL? He got a permanent tattoo on 3 different spots of his body, one of which very close to his face. That is something you can use and consider. Oftentimes with criminal conspiracies, they don't have a written contract. They don't have you're not going to have that coffee room table. Let's all agree to be a criminal enterprise. We all hereby today on January 1st, 2000, from here on out, we're an enterprise. That's often not how it works. So you got to look at what they say, what they do, and if you permanently get a tattoo, that's a pretty strong indicator if you're willingly and knowingly part of this. Shannon Stillwell, often wearing clothing, stain stuff, me and my slimes broke the law. You've heard that and seen that clothing line, which yes, they can play it off as just some innocent clothing line, but it says slime, a skeptical human being, wipe your effing nose, right? And you've heard from gang detectives that wipe your nose is not some, joke. It's about murdering someone, it's acting violence. So that's Kendrick in the middle, next to a slack graffiti with a red bandana. How they act, say, and do over time, those are the clues to know that someone willingly joined a conspiracy. So let's break this down a little bit further.
We need to switch your.
It's came out again, Your Honor. This is probably the easiest element while we switch this mic. 2 or more conspirators. Oh, thank you, Sergeant. Thank you. So that you can't have a conspiracy with one person, right? So I think think we all can agree that should be an element that's easy to check. You've heard from ample, it doesn't have to just be the 28 indicted co-conspirators. You will see in that indictment that it states on page 12 that it also includes unnamed or unindicted co-conspirators if you find that they're part of the conspiracy. So keep that in mind when you go back and deliberate. But yes, one of the elements, beyond a reasonable doubt, is 2 or more. I think that element, I'm not going to spend any more time on that one. You've heard from ample people. You've seen it.
Now it's 2 or more.
Are 2 or more of YSL. This just illustrates that point. Now,
But these dudes done took all these pictures and posted on Instagram and said so much that was hurtful to their own self.
like I said, it doesn't have to be expressed. It doesn't have to be where did they sign the YSL legend. I'm going to join.
The jury could come back and say that they're not guilty, but I doubt that they're going to say they're not guilty of everything. They're going to pick some things that they feel that they're not guilty of, and then they're going to say they're guilty of some things. I can guarantee you that. They might get not guilty on some things, but they not beating everything. Because these dudes was talking on themselves.
It has multiple purposes.
They was repping their own destruction.
What can prove agreement can also prove if they knowingly and willfully join.
Agreement, the understanding may provide. The defendants
Yes, Your Honor.
refer to the nature of the acts done in relation to
What
the
else
parties
do
and
you use?
interests.
Remember we talked about circumstantial evidence? Circumstantial evidence inferred from the nature of the acts done, relation of the parties, and the interest of the conspirators. What do they have to gain? Is it for something to further the group's interest? How do you know someone agrees? Look at what they do. And I argue to you that the evidence has shown that they've all knowingly and willfully agreed. Take where we started, or take the 2 murders. Shannon Stillwell, January 10th, 2015, murders Donovan Thomas. March 14th, 2022, Shannon Stillwell, with 3 other YSL members in both times, murders Shamel Drinks. If you have to ask yourself, did he knowingly and willfully agree to be a part of YSL criminal enterprise with 2 gang murders? That's an easy question. That's the most clear example of if someone murders a rival gang member twice, I think it's pretty clear that they knowingly and willfully agreed, regardless if they signed on the dotted line. Same with other crimes and acts.
That same shit that got Biggie and Tupac killed, little fuck, nigga.
They used all this against them. This is what they posted on Instagram.
You gonna see me? I'm at your fucking neck.
So again, what do they say? I mean, this is Kendrick and Wooney Lee.
Crazy.
You know, you have all the Make America Slime Again. You have Kendrick with YSL pennant, and you have Shannon Stillwell where someone in the background says YSL for life. That's just one example. You've obviously seen and heard from multiple. But what
Crazy.
do they say? What do they do? Are they publicly or actively or oftenly saying, yes, I'm a part of this YSL, there's an us and a them? Yes. I think it's pretty clear that they have.
Pretty clear.
Now,
Definitely.
some of this I've talked about, actions or evidence. So let me give you a concrete example we saw just a couple weeks ago with Viverito. So, YFN Lucci flyer. This is from Marquavius Huey's phone, where him and Jeffrey Williams, they send the text message, the flyer of Lucci. In 6 text messages, this principle of agreement, you're going to see agreement in action. This text is about to come up where all that's said, right?
Crazy.
Flyer, Jeffrey Williams says, where's that at? Claremont, slatty handle, stay very low, slat for sure, been out the way. They didn't say murder. They didn't say stab. They didn't say shoot. But in 6 text messages, it's readily clear that they're talking about enacting violence on YFN Lucci. That's agreement in one, barely a screen of a text message. That principle shows you, and think about this. It's
crazy.
Throughout.
Crazy,
What
man.
do they say with one another? What do they do with one another? That's how you can know agreement. It's just like you all have family
They
and friends. You may text
played
one
themselves,
word,
man.
and they know what you're saying.
Listen to this stuff,
I'm
man.
heading home. You don't say the address, right? Agreement can be inferred with.
That's
little
why it's gonna be
words, especially with people who know
easy
each other very well.
for people to
YSL
get
has its own lingo, so they don't have to
jammed
say
up
much.
in these
The guy
situations
handle,
because
he
they
knows
think
he will handle
communicating on the phone in
Other
code
examples.
is a way to hide something. You can't communicate on no communication
What it does not
device
require.
in
I've
code.
covered most of this. You know, it doesn't require.
They know how to
like I said,
decode everything,
physical
man.
meetings, even though we have that in this case.
And
Knowledge of
for
the
them
details
sending
of
the
the
flyer to
conspiracy,
each other
I argue
and
we
they
have
knew
that
they
in
was
this case.
beefing,
Consider
that
the
looked
Ken
bad for
Copeland,
them.
Quindarius Zachary,
Then somebody
Walter
tried to
Murphy,
stab Lucci in jail,
all of these individuals
and
have given
they had him come
statements
testify.
with evidence that's been corroborated
Come on,
that
man.
real crimes happened in real places and they knew about it. So a lot of these, you don't have to have them, but you actually do in this case. The last one, the identity of all the co-conspirators. You wouldn't have to know if you had 200 members of YSL. I don't know the exact number, but you wouldn't have to know every single one. Obviously, I argue to you that they know quite a few because you see the same individuals speaking, talking, and acting in concert together throughout the case. But none of these things are necessary to reach agreement. So, and there's a slight lag on this Zoom with this clicker. So I'm gonna move through this. So at its core, the crime is the agreement. The overt acts let you know that it's real. So this is important. They're charged with conspiracy to violate RICO. So the agreement to violate RICO, that's the crime they're charged with. These overt acts that you've heard from and we're about to walk through, those let you know that this isn't just fanciful, this isn't just in their minds, it's a real conspiracy. And in this case, and we're going to explain what RICO A and B is, they've actually committed the crimes. So it's like you're asking you, did this group of individuals agree to conspire to commit all of these crimes, racketeering activity? The best evidence of that they did is they actually went and shot multiple people, murdered people, robbed for the street gang. That lets you know that there's not much to say when you actually do the crimes that you're alleged to have just conspired to commit. It'd be like if you're asked about the bank robbery conspiracy and all they do is just talk about the bank robbery, get the items, they go and buy a gun, but they never do a robbery. Fast forward, they've done 20 robberies, 50 robberies over a decade, and you're asked, did that group of bank robbers intend to be part of a bank robbing crew? You'd obviously say yes. It's common sense because of what they actually did. That concept is important. Like I said, the overt act lets us know that the conspiracy is alive and well. And I'll argue to you, going back to credibility, the conspiracy is alive and well in this courtroom with deceiving in this witness stand. So this is just a visual explanation that you have Shannon Stillwell, Diamante Kendricks, and some, I didn't list all the photos of people you've seen, but this, the criminal enterprise, visually depicted. So let's walk through what an overt act is. So joint objectives equal joint responsibility. This is like a partnership in crime. Now, to find that someone's act is all the co-conspirators are on the hook for it, so to speak, any act done by any co-conspirator to further the criminal objectives is what counts. So if they're going to shoot a rival and you find that, yeah, they did shoot that rival and they did it to help YSL the enterprise, if that act and you find that whoever you find as part of that conspiracy, it's like they're all one and one for all. So each co-conspirator is responsible for the acts of others that are naturally and necessarily done to further the enterprise. Now, I've talked about different ways to violate. A, in a nutshell, is to acquire money and property. I'm not going to bury the lead. That's the first way to violate RICO. Conspire to acquire or keep money or other personal property. B, they both have conspire, and they actually have 7 elements each, and I believe 5 of the 7 are the same. So I'm going to explain a lot of these elements we've covered. 2 or more conspirators is one. So conspire to participate in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. If you find the defendant, and on your verdict form it will say the defendant violated subsection A or subsection B, conspired to violate. So I'm going to walk through what is A, what is B. They don't have to actually have committed A and B, although in this case I believe that they have, as I'm going to show you. You just have to say, did they ever conspire? And remember these principles I talked about. The unspoken words, what people do and say is the agreement, or you're not going to have that magic conference room meeting, so to speak, that's all captured where the conspiracy gets hatched. So let's walk through this. We're going to start with A. Keep it easy, keep it basic. And you're going to notice that when I talk about A, some of the acts can actually meet multiple ways. So you're going to see that certain evidence can actually impact multiple ways to violate RICO. So let's talk about subsection A of the RICO Act. Knowingly and willfully conspired with two or more co-conspirators to acquire or keep money or other personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity. I'm going to explain pattern of racketeering activity. It's two or more crimes that are explained and listed, and you'll be instructed by the court on what they are, that within 4 years. And any of the co-conspirators committed an overt act with at least one in furtherance of the criminal objective, and at least one has to be after May 10th, 2017. So that's A. I'm going to walk through some examples of A, and we're going to take this bit by bit. Armed robbery, Arshillian Bennett. Walter Murphy, Jeffrey Williams. May 13th, 2013. You heard from the officer where she walked with her child from 988 Confederate Court to that zone precinct to report a crime. That takes a lot of effort and time. So I'm going to use this top one while that bottom screen comes back. But obviously she came in here and did not want to acknowledge about the robbery, but I argue there's about to be a real bullet in her window that was taken by a crime scene tech who just responds to a scene. That is 988 Confederate Court, which comes up that address and area multiple times. And she said that she told the officer at the time, her Kel-Tec, the money, her purse was stolen. Acquire and keep money. Now, Walter Murphy, Jeffrey Williams, and she said someone that she didn't know, Jeffrey Williams' brother, that's multiple people doing it. That's one crime, one act. But when they work together, it's much easier to get property and items. And no one expects Ms. Bennett to come in here and testify. Certainly not back then and certainly not now. But that is an example of acquiring or obtaining money. It's robbery. Derek Dotson, also in 2013. This is 5 through 7. Adrian Bean, the coin laundry, where Miss Marissa Cisneros' car flew over the ledge. I mean, Adrian Bean sat here for what felt like an eternity and didn't remember entire years, but he flew over while driving a car over a 6-foot embankment. Why did he not remember any of that? Just think about that. I think the only thing he said is that memorable moment where he's like, keep it a buck, and he took his mask off. But he clearly would remember flying over a wall. Why are they not coming here and talk about it? Now this, again, Walter Murphy, Jeffrey Williams, that's the location where Leonard Pass's car, which is that gray Dodge right there, is parked, Summerdale Apartments. Obviously this is in the Cleveland Avenue area, because often these crimes are committed in the same locations, which will come important later. These are the firearms that they recovered from the car and then this is Mr. Derek Dotson, and you heard from Leonard Pass, who was with him. That's the car that was crashed underneath. And then this is a picture with Walter Murphy, Jeffrey Williams, the time he's throwing up rock crew. And if you remember, the background behind this is this slime in kind of green and black font. So, again, it's two YSL members acquiring and obtaining, trying to rob Derek Dotson.
Yeah.
And again, they're working in concert, working together. Ms. Teresia Hill, Act 61. She's just at her apartment complex, and this car, and if you remember, she only could recognize or ever identified Eppinger, Christian Eppinger, but there was 2 cars and multiple males with him. We don't know who these people are, but I think from what you've heard in this case, it's reasonable to suspect He's working with other people to do the armed robbery. Because again, it's hard to rob someone by yourself. So working in concert. That's Miss Hill. That's her apartment complex in present day. That's Christian Effinger from his public posting a firearm on social media. That's her wrecked car after it's found later. And where does the car go? Where Miss Hill lives, to Cleveland Avenue. Where do the guns and the Infiniti Q50 from Diamond Thomas go? They go to Oak Drive, where O.G. Bentley's house is. Common after crimes, they go to the same location. That's important because these same victims, same accomplices, same pattern is important for RICO. So keep that in mind as we walk through this. And he does all of this with, and it's hard to see from here, YSL on his face, no mask. She said, I can't remember if Miss Hill said I wore glasses or didn't wear glasses, but her eyes were working just fine. And he had nothing covering his face. Think about it. If you walked into Winn-Dixie with a nameplate that said, hey, I'm Christian Atkins, I'm here to rob you, no one would do that. So why would you publicly have the gang on your face when you do a crime? Because a face tattoo could stand out. Because they want people to know. You want the notoriety. You want the fear. Who robbed you? YSL. She doesn't know his name. Think about that. You have multiple people, and Walter Murphy, for those, I don't know
And
the date Walter Murphy
that's
got
what I
his face
say.
tattoo.
Why rep this stuff so hard and then get in court
So think about that.
and you don't want to rep it?
Display of
Knowing that you're displaying an easy target to identify your gang and who you're a part of to the police. It doesn't make no sense, man.
I'm not going to show you or bring out every firearm we've introduced, but there's a lot of stolen guns. Think about, we don't know where all those guns came from. Sometimes you heard from the person whose home was burglarized or car was broken into, and you said, yes, this was a report from this location. But, you know, you add these up, it's a decent number of stolen guns. These are all overt acts. You know, Jeffrey Williams, the Sig Sauer, September 9th, 2013. Defendant Kendrick with Arnold when they were riding back into near Trestle Tree Confederate, the same location Miss Bennett lived at, right? On October 1st, 2015, after Martinez Arnold got jumped at Magic City. 40 cal stolen. FN57, that is the stop that Officer Fikes did of Jeffrey Williams and Sergio Kitchens. Why are all these stolen weapons from 2013, 2015, 2017, 2018, 2020, 2015, and 2022? You heard from Detective Liam Packer that it was some train theft from the ATF, that a cargo shipment. That's acquiring or maintaining property, stolen guns. Ask yourself where all these stolen guns come, and you've seen, like when Quindarius Zachary is arrested with the gun on May 7th, 2015, that came back with Nibin when Kilgore testified to the shooting of Miss Frida Reed's house. When it matched that, the guns exchange hands. The guns move around, and stolen guns are harder to trace. That's acquiring and maintaining property, and evidence of it. I just included a couple photos because we have a lot to cover, but that is stolen property, all tethered to A. In 2022, right, this is the gun that was reported stolen that right before they went to the house on Meadowlark Drive, it was thrown out and recovered, and it came back stolen. Again, stolen weapons from as far back as 2013 to stolen weapons as recently as 2022. There's common patterns that indicate that they get stolen firearms quite easily. Subsection B. This is where all the violent acts come up. So the first objective, and your indictment's not going to have numbers, is going to be conspiracy to violate subsection B with the state's objective of murder, aggravated assault, and threats of violence. So we're going to walk through some of these so I can explain to you why they further the criminal objectives of YSL. So, simple definition, while associated with an enterprise, YSL, they knowingly and willfully conspire with one or more co-conspirators to participate in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, and any of the co-conspirators committed an overt act after May 10, 2017. If you notice, other than what's in green, everything's the same as A. So these same factors and principles will come up for both. So I got to explain to you what is participating in the enterprise and what are these criminal objectives. So we're going to start with the murder, aggravated assault, and threats of violence and go from there. So again, Page 12 of the indictment, it outlines the conspiracy. I'm not going to read all this for you now, but it states the Young Slime Life enterprise and what the criminal objectives are right after it. That's where you can find it on page 12 of the indictment you're going to have. These are these objectives. I've removed them from the indictment, but we're going to start with the first one. Murder, assault, threats of violence. And then we're going to talk about robbery, theft, unlawful sale, and distribution of drugs. So let's walk through this together. I just wanted to show you a brief visual of how you're going to have the indictment with you and can look through it. So again, we're going to go objective by objective because it helps to organize the evidence. And objective 1, murder, assault, and threats of violence. So you've heard about pattern of racketeering activity. What is racketeering activity? The good news for y'all is the indictment, anytime you see, it will state which is an act of racketeering activity, and then it'll cite a statute. This is what explains what racketeering activity is. This is the murder of Donovan Thomas. And you'll see when you are deciding, which is overt act 16 through 20, is the murder of Donovan Thomas. When y'all are back there and saying, I want to figure out if something's a pattern of racketeering or figure out if an overt act is a racketeering activity. That will tell you. That's your snapshot. So just look. This is overt act 17, which is the murder. 16 is when Jeffrey Williams rents the vehicle. But when you see what's highlighted, you'll know it's racketeering activity. So I just wanted to show that for you. And then we're going to walk through this now. We're going to talk about Donovan Thomas first, overt act 16 through 20.
The last one on the line for the 6204.
Yes, there's police over here on the north side of McDaniel.
North side of McDaniel. Why did you put
Yeah. At Heron living the barber shop. Somebody don't got shot.
Mr. Parker, who you testified, who's owned a barber shop there for 20 years. Barber shop right here. And Kendrick, Stillwell, this is Demise McMullen. Now, we'll talk about this in a minute. This is actually the photograph from when they shot Dexter Montgomery. Same case with D'Angelo White when they left that Jonesboro gas station in Lakewood and got to the four-way stop. That's the photograph from that. So you have Nard, but that's Demise McMullen, Shannon, Stillwell, Kendrick. This is obviously the shooting. Overt act is, did Jeffrey Williams rent the Infiniti Q50 and act in furtherance of the conspiracy? When you think about these overt acts, think how the criminal objectives. Ms. Hilton's going to talk to you and walk through bit by bit the murder itself of Donovan Thomas. But I argue to you, as she will too, that has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and that renting of the Infiniti is an overt act that was used to facilitate the murder, and you've seen a pattern of rental cars being used. And ask yourself why. They're harder to trace. People don't recognize you in that car. Now, how is Donovan Thomas's murder evidence of RICO? Well, I'm going to tell you. That's Donovan Thomas. This is about to be Wooney Lee.
Before y'all nigga with slime.
This shit is in blood. We wrote this shit in blood.
I probably had it before slime.
And we also wrote it on niggas.
We wrote it on a tombstone. And that's Donovan Thomas's gravestone. And when Miss Edmonds, who testified to you about recognizing that, she didn't wipe graffiti, she didn't wipe paint off that tombstone, she wiped a confession. And that confession says slapped, because that's who it's for, that's who it's from, that's who publicly has acknowledged that murder since it happened. YSL, the criminal enterprise. And that same slap in green handwriting, Defendant Stillwell is posting in, 7 years later in a slime t-shirt, right, Peanut Stone Gray. That's the translation version. He put it in Spanish. Wooney Lee's comment, his comment, they're all talking about and kind of joking sheepishly about a murder of Donovan Thomas. It's we, it's us, it's criminal enterprise. Now, we talked about Kendrick's tattoo, which is about to come up on his left forearm. I don't know when he got this tattoo, when this Zoom works with me and it comes up. I don't know if he had that tattoo of slat on his arm while he's driving the Infiniti 250 past 330 McDaniel Street and Nard and Shannon shot and killed Donovan Thomas, but that same green slat ends up on the gravestone. It's not a coincidence. And they're telling you that they did it, and they just don't care. Because as you said when we started, slimes are above the law. But they didn't think about you. Now,
Swear to God, we killed nuts, so they gonna stay on you.
you hear it as clear as I hear it. I swear to God, nobody accused Dolly of murdering Donovan Thomas. Who's the we? And then you hear in the background, we smoke nut. And if you remember that call, right before that, Woody saying, tell your brother I love him. And then you can hear Jeffrey Williams say, tell him I love him. Right there next to him. We killed Nut. We put it on his tombstone. Slat, and then just making a cheapest joke this years later. They're telling you we did it, they just don't care. And that's Shannon Stillwell in that same video, and there's a live snake and a YSL chain. It's out in the open. Beat a murder rap. Now, we're going to turn to Jamari Holmes next, and I'm going to explain to you why that murder that Rodelius Ryan and Damon Blaylock did is in furtherance of the YSL criminal street gang, which is Overt Act 79 through 81, February 23rd, 2019. That's the vehicle that 15-year-old Jamari Holmes was in. This is Rodelius Ryan. This is Blaylock throwing up YSL, which is also an overt act, that public display of allegiance. It's going to come up in just a second. That's Jamari Holmes. You're going to see the message where, where Mariah leaves and she says, or not Mariah, but Brazy, as they called her, text and DMs Ryan and Blaylock and says, they know about Ryan but don't know about you, and allude to Mariah snitching on them. That snitching comes up repeatedly. This is the projectile that was in Jamari Holmes' head that was fired from weapons that Rodelius Ryan and Damon Blaylock shot while they were hanging out with females in Cleveland Avenue. It came to 50 Mount Zion. And then I want to ask you, this is that message. All again, talking about snitching, trying to not get caught. Now, how do you know why Ryan did it? What does Ryan think about this murder? What is he remorseful? Is he sad? Well, here's him that same day at 5 o'clock. So that's the 911 call at 4 in the morning, not 4 in the afternoon, February 23rd, 2019. Bet YSL makes the news FaceTime. You've heard repeatedly about the FaceTime. I argue to you when he says Bet YSL makes the news, Fox 5. So he's telling people without having some plausible deniability of no one's going to know what I'm talking about, YSL makes the news. Now, what does he do 5 hours after this? Let's find out.
Block life knowing again. 250 knowing again. Bet y'all push nigga can't come up here in that block. Yeah, no cap. Color Ryan gonna shoot at your fitted. That's no cap.
He's going to shoot at your fitted, and that's the fitted cap that Jamari Holmes wore on his head when he was murdered. That is bragging about the murder. YSL makes the news, and then he's on the quote-unquote block, right? And he's throwing up YSL. Is it a coincidence that this guy he's with says, Little Rod will shoot at your, don't come on this block, and you have Bernard Mitch and all of them who weren't from that neighborhood come over to 50 Mount Zion, he will shoot at your fitted cap. And there's a literal fitted cap from Jamari Holmes' head with a bullet hole in it, and that's his skull with a bullet hole in it. This ain't, murder gang isn't some facade, this isn't for clout, this is real life. And this is the bragging and the boasting above the law and proving that they're doing it for the street gang. They're telling you, nothing I've said so far with these two murders is anything but their own words. March 14th, 2022, Shamel Drinks. I think it's amply clear that this murder is gang-related. It's to further YSL. You've heard about the Nibin matches, the double homicide of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford. You heard op hunting, all of the way that Garlington and Shannon talked about getting revenge. And what happens? They see an op at a gas station and 4 YSL members in a rented vehicle murder. And Shannon Stillwell is involved in both. And it's eerily similar to Donovan Thomas's murder. This is the corridor right there, and that is Chanel Drink's vehicle with bullet holes on the same side of his car that Shannon Stillwell's Audi drove up in. It's not rocket science that he did it. The evidence has shown you he did. And it's 100% gang-related. They're both part of the same rival group. There's no evidence about any kind of disagreement or anything with Chanel Drinks. They did it for YSL. They did it to get revenge. And this is just a visual representation where Shannon Stillwell is publicly stating, check the score. Because again, shooting and murder is like a scoreboard, but this ain't a sports game. This is the Superior Court of Fulton County, and you can't go shoot people for sport or murder your rivals to up the score. That ain't how it works. That's the Mekion Garlington. There's the Ford Fusion with Miles Farley and with Quarmavius Nichols. Now, aggravated assault. We've heard a lot about aggravated assaults. And in a case like this, you can kind of get numb to the shell casings collected, the damage, but these are acts of racketeering, real guns shooting real bullets towards property or people. What do YSL members say about shooting? Well, let's ask.
Y'all know we on tour. You better keep your distance. Don't come to no club. Don't come outside. Don't do shit. Stay your ass in your mama house. You better be in your mama basement. You making beats and shit. Don't bring your ass out the house. Hey, look, don't come outside. You niggas soft as fuck. You niggas pussy.
That's their words. Shoot the ops, make them catch on. That's Rodelius Ryan's Instagram that came in when Mr. Howes was sitting right here. And then this is Rodelius Ryan with a drum, a YSL chain, publicly showing it. These public threats of violence, when you're murdering people and throwing up YSL and bragging about it, that has a real effect of people who want to come in and testify or people that ever want to tell the police, period. These aren't just, a facade. This isn't just a movie. This is real life. And they're showing you and telling you what they're about. So I say take them at their word for it. April 12, 2015, Dexter Montgomery. This is important because when you boil it down from what D'Angelo White told 911 and the police that you heard, they were just driving. And it seemed like O.G. Bentley thought that they were following them. They get to the gas station. There's no real reason for this to escalate to where it did. And when they leave the gas station, from Walter Murphy's evidence, Nard and Walter Murphy come. It's one YSL member, O.G. Bentley. Maybe he was paranoid. Maybe someone was out to get him. But it wasn't D'Angelo White. It was not Dexter Montgomery. And this is their car when it stopped after the shooting at that stoplight. Cornelius Davis and Christian James. And that's the bullet that comes in through that car, and that's Dexter Montgomery with half of his head shot off because they followed a YSL member to a gas station. That's it. One call, Walter Murphy and Demise McMullen, they didn't say, where do I sign the criminal enterprise contract? This agreement I talked about, Slat, handle that. They just go. They grab the sticks and went.
My name's D'Angelo.
And D'Angelo, tell me exactly what happened.
Now, we was at the gas station. And, my partner was trying to talk to a girl, but I guess they thought we was following them, and then they pulled up on and just started, and we pulled off. And then we pulled off from the gas station, and then we got away. And then we ended up driving a back streetway, and then we ended up seeing them again. They ended up shooting, and somebody ended up getting hit.
Okay. Are you with the...
Like I said, they're just driving. I mean, this is Walter Murphy with a stick. This is Demise McMullen, who they say hard Nard, the same person that Condarius Zachary and Copeland said was shooting at Donovan Thomas. This is 3 months later. It's a lot more likely that he's a shooter when you see him on camera with a long gun at a gas station for no reason because O.G. Bentley called him. Their same common associates with no questions come. That's an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy. Lil Wayne tour bus, April 26, 2015. You heard a lot of evidence about Lil Wayne. What you didn't hear was any remote personal reason that Jimmy Winfrey would have even knew or had any kind of squabble with Dwayne Carter, Lil Wayne. So why did he shoot the bus? You heard about the public back and forth. And look at the actions before, during, and after of that shooting. Now, this is only a couple weeks after Dexter Montgomery. And it's 2 days before the shooting spree of Adele Drive and Drew Drive that Garlington, Zachary, and Sledge did. So all these shootings, when Gaither and Dennis come in and talk about shooting after shooting, they're not just making this stuff up. It's real. So this is Mr. Alvin Lewis's tour bus shot up. This is Jimmy Winfrey. You heard from Detective Dennis about visually seeing them, and Zachary kind of got spooked because he knew his social security number, which would probably spook out Zachary of like, how does this gang detective know me like that? And then you have this post, which is over at Act 121, I'm free, death before dishonor. Quite similar to the tattoo that Shannon Stillwell has, YSL. And what does he say about it? And by he, I mean Jimmy Winfrey.
So the thing ain't too.
And then another thing, we should let Amina know they got paperwork up in black and white showing, that I work for the company. So now it's gonna look like street business.
Get Amina to get the paperwork to put it in black and white, because if not, it's going to look like street business. Because it is street business. They just don't want you to know. That's that deception piece. They don't want jurors to know. They don't want the police to know. So get it in paperwork so we can make it look legit. There's nothing legit about shooting a tour bus driver's car on a highway. There's none. This is the phone records. They move as a pack. They move as one. This is before, where Zachary, Winfrey, Sledge, McMullen, Greer, and Dolly are all in the general area of the vault. This is, when it's about to come up, is the compound, which is a little bit later. Zachary, Winfrey, McMullen, Greer, and Dolly, 142 to 304. They all have kind of similar times when they leave, similar times when they depart. And then the last slide is going to be Dolly and Jimmy Winfrey's phone records for when the shooting happened. And you can see the path they travel, and Winfrey's in black and Dolly's in orange, and the white Camaro that he hid and made the jail call to not get it found, and then, he comes out, and then it's YSL, death before dishonor. Jimmy Winfrey, quite likely, did not act alone. How do you drive a white Camaro going 80 down a highway and shoot that many times in a bus? Just think about it. It's common sense. They act as one, as you've seen. This is 2 days later. 3 other completely different YSL members, but all part of the same criminal street gang. Garlington, Zachary, and Sledge. Garlington gets jumped at Club Crucial. What do? They go on a shooting spree. First, they go shoot up 1428. Then they go shoot up 1903 Drew Drive. Back to back to back. This is Miss Bell. And when you talk about, credibility of witnesses, you don't believe Miss Bell's testimony because you like her. Everybody wants to drink a glass of vodka with Miss Bell. She was a sweet lady. You believe it because what motive does she have to come in here and sit and say that her house was shot up other than that it did? What motive does she have? What bias does she have? She's a good example. She's just in her bed trying to drink a nightcap and just hang out. And what happens? They shoot at her because they think that, her nephew or someone in YFN is there. That's not how it works in Fulton County. You don't just go shoot people's houses up because your op's there. But again, they're above the law. This is the timeline, 220 to 406 to 551. This is Zachary with what looks like an AK-47 and Demekion Garlington, and there's Sledge wiping his nose. Just like, if you remember, he wiped his nose when he walked off that witness stand at y'all. So these are the things that they're telling you, and you're going to see photographs from these. First, it's going to be the Club Crucial shootings. When they post about guns, when they talk about guns, and then they tell you that they committed the crimes, it's not rocket science. Take them at their word, what the evidence has shown. These kind of retaliation is, again, Demikion's jumped. We got to protect him. It's a us, it's a we, it's an enterprise, right? And they act together because you have strength in numbers, protection and shootings. But this was a fist fight. Now, it was a shooting in the parking lot, and then they go to other homes, travel intentionally down there, and shoot. Again, they're moving together in concert. As you saw from the Donovan Thomas phone records, the Shamel Drinks phone records, the Little Wayne phone records. We didn't put in phone records of this, but I think it's quite clear who did it and why they did it from the testimony of Zachary and Sledge and what we impeached them on. 34 shell casings. Drew Drive, roughly 2 hours later, right? This is where Miss Battle's apartment was, and it's just an apartment right by the street, all these shell casings in the middle of the street, refrigerators and ovens shot. All because someone jumped Demekian, and so they go, no questions asked. Again, they don't have to sign on the dotted line. They have agreement, they have knowledge, they act in concert, and the criminal objective is to help the street gang, which is go get revenge. That's the RICO in action. So if you're asked, well, did Kendrick and Stillwell agree to be a part of a group that would commit racketeering activity? Did they agree to participate knowingly and willingly? And you have all these shootings, and you say, did they think that was it reasonably foreseeable, understanding when they joined that multiple shootings would go on with YSL? You bet there is. You've seen it, right? They don't back up. They don't quit. They keep hanging out, shooting, and associating and publicly bragging about YSL over and over. This is roughly a month minus 7 days from when this shooting spree happened that these two, Garlington and Zachary, do. They can mess with us if they want. We're going to bring them homicide. Take their word for it, because an aggravated assault could be a murder. It just missed. So they're shooting. They're telling you I am. And then they want to act like, oh, I'm just kidding. It's obviously not a joke. It's not a facade. It's very real. Conspiracy to commit murder, which is Diamante Kendrick and Martinez Arnold, same neighborhood, Summerhill area, Confederate area. They have a stolen handgun and a long gun, and they're riding, yet again, after a fight, and this time it's not a nightclub, it's a strip club, Magic City. And you heard that brief snippet of a jail call where Kendrick's talking about it and talking about how Duke just called him, right? So, again, little questions, little actions, just driving and get stopped in the same area of town where Kelvin Watts and Miss Bennett and YFN Lucci and YFN, all of that area of town. It's not a coincidence. It's the same victim, same area. This red circle is going to be the stolen firearm. That's the long gun. This is Overt Act 111. 5 years later, you have the same two individuals in a slime T-shirt with Martinez Arnold. Again, they're still hanging, associating. And then on the May 9th, 2022 stop, Martinez Arnold and Kendricks are at that house that has all of those firearms and the marijuana out in the open. Nothing's changed except time. Public displays of allegiance. This is the photograph that I believe Investigator Griffin, who was the lead detective on T.R. Jones' murder, introduced. Does that apartment complex look quite familiar to the steps of Miss Bennett's? It's because it's 988 Confederate Court, that Confederate Court area. ABG territory, which is, and that's Kelvin Watts, right? And this is where they were headed. And obviously in 2022, they're still trying to shoot and kill, shell kill Kelvin Watts. You see how over time it's the same acts. That's conspiracy. It's just right before you. Now, objective 4. Remember how I said at the beginning, sometimes those stolen firearms or the robberies can play up multiple ways? This is a good example of it. Money, weapons, and other property through acts of racketeering activity. So those robberies and thefts, you could find them as they conspired to violate B, to participate in the enterprise, or A, they conspired knowing that they could acquire and get property a lot easier. Either one. The evidence can sometimes fit multiple. And you have the unlawful sale and distribution of drugs. Now, I'm not going to walk through all of the drugs we introduced or firearms or items. I'm just giving you a snapshot. That criminal objective has multiple. I think I would focus on the areas of where they are if there's other people with them. And I think this might have skipped through faster than I anticipated. This is obviously the May 9th, 2022, which is Jeffrey Williams' home. I'm going to go back one. And while that's coming up, I may get some help and put up one of these easels that we'll talk about. Yes, thank you. This just has agreement, enterprise, and pattern. This agreement to be a part of the enterprise, a pattern, And they all flow together, right? So evidence if they agreed, they go and shoot rivals together. We go and shoot the same rivals with the same people together. Evidence for agreement, evidence for pattern. Does the YSL enterprise exist? Is it a loosely formed group of individuals for a same common criminal purpose? All of these three kind of feed together. So this triangle is just a visual way to help think through this. Okay, well, it's catching up with me, and I apologize for this. But what's going to come up next, this is the Green Store, right? This is a picture of Kenneth Copeland and Shannon Stillwell. You have August 23, 2013, where one of the first witnesses, Sergeant Heeb, H-E-E-B, he was with an officer, Viverito. Sound familiar? 50 individual packages of clear marijuana. And this area of town is not far from where the Windsor Street gas station is in 2022, where Shamel Drinks was last seen alive before that stoplight. This is Trontavious Stevens' possession of marijuana after a traffic stop where he was with Stillwell. You've seen kind of over the years, multiple, sometimes at around 151 Cleveland, drugs. You've heard about the May 9th, 2022, all of the drugs that were found in that house. This is just a snapshot. These are some overt acts that you could use for this criminal objective of unlawful distribution of drugs. So I just include this as a tip. I'm not going to walk through every one. Act 48, 2015. Act 49, 2015. Act 65, 2017. 2020, it spans 7 years. BB, Nichols, Stevens, right? You've heard and seen pictures of them, identifiers of YSL over time in similar areas dealing drugs. That's another benefit or perk or objective of being in this kind of group, because no one's going to want to mess with you when you're going around shooting people and saying, I'm going to shoot. It helps you to unlawfully distribute drugs a lot easier in certain areas. Now, Objective 5 is obstructing law enforcement, right? So you've heard about this in multiple ways. This is intimidation of witnesses, because that helps the enterprise, because then you can't get caught. Maybe you can fool or deceive a juror, a detective. A pattern, repeatedly, publicly saying you'll lie to all your family and friends and then come in here and tell the truth, basically saying, hint, hint, why can't you lie in court? And you need to get killed. And then agreement, where all of them benefit and know and participate in this. So what evidence do we have of attacks on law enforcement? Well, one of the first acts you saw is Trontavious Stevens, where you heard from the vehicle that was stolen and Officer Pettis, and there was that firearm and that yellow bucket where he tried to go and arrest Stevens, who has this slime tattoo on his body, and then he brandished a handgun, pointed it at the firearm. Intimidation. Now, that officer was undercover, right? But he's trying to stop him and apprehend him, and he's just basically, I'm above the law, right? The same message that Shannon Stillwell is saying in present day. They don't think they could be held accountable. Police can't stop me. Now, we've talked about the armed robbery of Derek Dotson, but this also proves this objective, and I'll show you why. That's former and present. That's the...
DK, little nigga DK shot at 12, nigga. Yeah, he said it. For no reason, boy.
For no reason.
He's shooting for no reason,
He's shooting at 12, the police, for no reason.
Shooting at y'all. Yeah, that nigga just stopped, boy, for no reason, Carter.
That's Adrian Bean's words, right? And then
he got it on him. And he got the screen up on him. Bloody DK. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Bloody DK, and I got the strap on me, and he throws up Rock Crew at the time. And he's just shooting at 12 for no reason. Another attack on law enforcement. That, again, you don't want to get caught. You just tried to rob Derek Dotson, so you don't want to get apprehended by the police. Officer Rogers. You're going to hear what people say before and after some of this and their viewpoint on it. And that's Christian Effinger in the Cleveland Avenue area shooting Officer Rogers. That's not just words. That's a mentality of, again, slimes are above the law, and it's a public message of that. I can't think of a more clear, raw example of that than this. Don't just believe what they say, believe what they do. And he's just trying to arrest him for a warrant. And what does Rodelius Ryan say after this happens? If you look at his TV screen, you're going to see Officer Rogers' photo pop up, and this is the message he has for his fellow YSL gang member after he just tried to attempted to murder Officer Rogers for doing his job.
Yeah, man, free my nigga Big Brish, man.
Here's Officer Rogers.
Yeah, man, live the chain gang. Fuck that boy. Fuck that boy. Strike that baby. Yeah, man. Free my nigga Big Brish, man. Fuck the DA. Ain't we catching the bun on this shit. Yeah, we about to catch that bun, fuck nigga. We coming to get you. You know what it is. Yes, sir. That shit in the hood or hell gang? Free the gang.
That's in the hood.
Yeah, YSL shit.
YSL shit.
Yeah.
Just like the song said, YSL shit, killing 12 shit. This is Ryan bragging and boasting about his fellow gang member trying to shoot Officer Rogers. And then he says slap, right? This shows you how they view the enterprise.
Yeah, man, free my nigga Big Brish, man, by the way. The gang way. Big Brish was the big head, man. They gave my nigga a bun today, man. You smell me?
Over at Act 180.
This nigga lie to your kids.
You know, so Ryan's words there are kind of telling, right? Because he views what Eppinger did on the one hand by himself as a collective, we, us, he's with me, and he's saying YSL and SLAT, because it boosts your street cred. Quite frankly, it boosts your street cred to shoot at the police. And that furthers your gang because you get more of a reputation. And that's what you've heard from the gang detectives and seen why Ryan would have this positive reaction and collective us to Eppinger doing that. It wasn't just Eppinger alone. It's a we, it's a us. And any overt act done to further the conspiracy is held against everyone, to include these defendants. Because when you knowingly and willfully join a criminal enterprise, you got to buy the good, bad, and the ugly. Now, we've talked about intimidating witnesses. I started with that video of Jeffrey Williams. What's Antonio Sledge's position on
You lie to your kids, you lie to your mama, but you get in the courtroom and in the investigation room and tell them punk-ass people the God-honest motherfucking truth. Pussy ass.
And that's Antonio Sledge as a witness, right? So you realize what people say outside of court. Think about that Antonio Sledge and that. And it, how people are in the witness stand, right, is quite different. But you don't want to get caught. You don't want people to come in here and tell them. It's as clear as that. Miss Bennett, Antonio Sumlin, Quindarius Zachary, Walter Murphy, Kenneth Copeland, about to be Adrian Bean up here, Wooney Lee. You saw their reactions, the awkward pauses, the kind of contemplation of, man, what am I going to say here? Or some bad piece of wiretap or jail call that gets played that doesn't sound good. Trontavia Stevens and Adrian Bean. This is alluding to, you heard from Mariah Smith about the threats for her testifying in the murder of Jamari Holmes trial and coming to court. And this is a brain and a rat emoji. She got threats for talking to law enforcement. Again, you don't want people to come forward because it helps Rodelius Ryan not get caught. It helps the criminal enterprise stay abreast. That's an overt action furtherance of conspiracy. What's a pattern of racketeering? So all of these crimes, these aggravated assaults, these murders, it's not, they actually did a pattern, but the conspiracy is, did they knowingly and willfully conspire to join YSL knowing that that could be a possibility? I think it's ludicrous to say otherwise, right? They knew exactly what they signed up for when they tattooed YSL on their body and shot people for YSL. And it can be from anyone. Within 4 years of each other, they're not in it for the long haul. You don't tattoo your face if you're just in something for a couple weeks. It's a permanent thing. And you've seen evidence in present day and evidence in the past that's shown that allegiance. And that's where this agreement, pattern, and enterprise all play together. You have agreement for the enterprise. There's a pattern of racketeering activity, shootings, murders, robberies, that feed and promote the enterprise. That's RICO conspiracy. And it can be by any co-conspirator. But you certainly have overt acts from both of them. What is interrelated? This is key, right? What makes a pattern of racketeering interrelated? Same victims, same accomplices, same or similar intents, results, or methods of commission. With what we've talked about so far, you've seen a repeated pattern. The same opposition group moving together, the same individuals committing it. Over and over, all of these interrelated, they're not just interrelated. It's like a it's like a ball of yarn that's just so intertwined, tight, you can't get out of it. It's like they're all related. And I'm going to show you some examples of that will cut through time and cut through RICO conspirators, and you'll see patterns and connections that can be hard to miss with all of this evidence. So let's focus on some distinguishing characteristics. So what's the best evidence that someone violated conspiracy to violate RICO? Is they actually did it. That's, if you want to figure out if someone wants to conspire to rob a bank and they go rob 20 banks, well, they probably agreed to do that bank robbery. It's as simple as that. So let's look at what they did. Let's look at what they said and look at how it's related. Same victims, same accomplices. So I'm going to show you some examples that are going to mirror together exhibits from different parts of the trial. Actions speak louder than words. They just do. It's like what your grandparents say, or dad or mom, don't do what I say, do what I do. So believe them. Let's see what they do and how they do it and why it's interrelated. So we're going to see some patterns. They move as a pack, right? What's going to come up is the cell phone records from O.G. Bentley's house, or the spot on Oak Drive where you heard testimony about. This is after the murder of Donovan Thomas. This is both what Copeland and Zachary say that they all went to get rid of the gun and to get rid of the car, because they don't want murder weapons to get caught with them, obviously. So the same individual who called Walter Murphy and Demise McMullen 3 months later when they pull up with a stick, you don't think that Demise McMullen killed Donovan Thomas with Shannon Stillwell, Kendrick driving, and Justin Cobb, and then would go to his friend O.G. Bentley? Of course he would. And where do they go? I mean, 755, 750, this is McMullen and Williams. That's O.G. Bentley's house. 5 minutes of each other. They go from up north, where Sky House is, to down there. Let's look at the next slide. Bradford, 747, O.G. Bentley's house. You need a common place to take guns and cars. It's not a coincidence they all just woke up and decided to go, have a pizza party at O.G. Bentley's, within 30 minutes of the murder of Donovan Thomas in a car rented by Jeffrey Williams. That's not a coincidence. And that Copeland and Zachary just guessed randomly of where they traveled. They knew. They knew. Let's look at Treadwell, right? He's all over this Oak Drive address because that's where his house was. Now, fast forward, this is Chamel Drinks. Where do they go after the murder of Chamel Drinks? This is Farley, Garlington, and Jackson. The times are a little different, but the general direction of travel is to, look, here's the airport, there's the airport, there's the airport, there's 70, 70. They go to the same location after a murder for a variety of reasons. Maybe to get their story straight. Maybe to all have a common place to go to get away from when you just commit a murder. This is 2022. That was 2015. That's a pattern. I can't think of a more clear example of one. Now, common places to stash and store. You've heard about the web. You've seen more recently Waters Road, and you used to hear reference about the dugout, but the web and Waters Road come up frequently. What were some similarities between them? They're places where they can store their guns and can frequently go where no one's going to catch them or bother them. This is Trontavious Stevens. This is Antonio Sumlin. He has the slime tattoo on his body, and Sumlin has YSL here and multiple king slime on his forearm. This is the web. There's that YSL. There's the surveillance video right there. Looked kind of similar to Waters Road. Completely different locations. This is from the Instagram where one slug, I'm going to the web. And then there was this wiretap.
We back at the web. What, slug on spot? Yo, we got that spot now. We ain't slug spot though.
We're back at the web. It's not slug spot. It's now my spot. They exchange guns. They exchange locations to help the gang. It's quite simply that, right? They need a spot to be able to hang out and lay low. Fast forward to present time. We're about to talk about and see Waters Road. And you saw the phone records both in March, the ankle monitor, it was 3,000 something times per minute that defendant Stillwell was at that 2830 Waters Road. It's not a coincidence, right? You just saw that surveillance at the web. Yes, you can have surveillance system in your home, but with the evidence of guns, and let's go to the web, Waters Road, with all of the assault rifles and bullets that were there, that's the surveillance video on the 16th. That's the cables removed on the 17th. Same address, Waters Road. It moves and talks and walks very similar to the web. Different locations, YSL members, to help the enterprise. They all agree to be a part of it, from the tattoos and the shootings and the actions, and there's a pattern. There's a clear pattern. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out this pattern. Same or similar intents and accomplices. So follow me with this. So Donovan Thomas, murdered January 10th, 2015, by YSL. YFN Lucci, whose mother's house is shot on the 22nd of January and the 26th of January, 2015. And then, what do they say? What do they do? What are their methods of attacking or harming a rival? Well, that's the 22nd, 1007 Hill Street. And then the 26th, that is, a window, a mirror window in her home. Is it a coincidence he shoots that? Not. I shoot at his mommy, he no longer mentions me. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But then when you see the text messages, right, between Huey and Thug, go handle that, Slatty, it kind of takes on a little different feel to it. All right, so keep going. What other actions do YSL members have with? And if you remember, right, the gun that Zachary had that he was arrested with got tied to those shootings. So this is where guns change. Multiple conspirators work together in concert. This is a tweet or an Instagram from Jeffrey Williams. If I didn't like what you did for your mothers and kids, I would have been killed you. That's 2019. And then you have, in 2020, coincidentally, Kendrick with slat and a snake on him standing on the same Mr. Bennett's car, right? A clear sign of disrespect with a middle finger. And then fast forward, it's not just funny tweets or funny songs or funny cars, right? Let's keep going with this. Same victim, same YSL members throughout all of this. There's the flyer we talked about, right? There's the tweet, go handle it. You saw examples. You saw another example of that when Viv Rito was on the stand. Now, not only do they shoot at his mother's house, murder his friends, tweet at him, disrespect his car, then they try to stab him and actually do stab him in the jail, but they try to kill him is what I meant to say. And you saw the text messages about that. So let's walk through that, right? This is spanning from 2015 to 2022. Agreement, enterprise, pattern. This is when Jaden Myrick stabbing YFN Lucci in the jail. That's YFN Lucci. He's actually stabbed, right? This isn't just some fake violence. Then, this is Shannon Stillwell, that same day.
They got me on PC with the Flash. Oh, that's on PC.
And this is Eppinger and Summer.
Yeah, hey, find out what I can get for that, bro. Huh? Man, find out what I can get for that, bro. Get for what? You know what I'm talking about. I know what you can get for. I just told you why I'm at.
Remember that?
Okay, so what you need me to do? Find out what I can get, man. I just told you who I'm in the drawing with. Who you in the drawing with? Lucci, nigga.
It's unspoken agreement, right? Why is someone, Eppinger, Kendrick, Zachary have a gun, Shannon tweeting just wet, Lucci's, you know what, ASS up? Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence. Same victims, that's a pattern. I can't think of a more clear pattern. Now let's take this a little bit further. Christian Evans, right? The same one who robbed Raven Hill with a YSL on his face is calling someone who has YSL tattooed permanently on his body and is talking about going to stab Lucci and get permission, right? So these same co-conspirators just work together over time. It's going to come along. What we're going to show, see, there's someone, right? Can't spell slime without me, the biggest. Publicly full allegiance. Did they knowingly and willfully agree to be part of YSL? What do they say and what do they do, right? It's as simple as that. That is how you can know that the evidence showing that. All right. Now, what's the common denominator with Kelvin Watts? This is Zachary Sledge. There's Kelvin Watts, Shell Kale, and Donovan Thomas, right? You just saw a picture of Donovan Thomas and Mr. Bennett. And you saw the actions that the YSL criminal street gang did and thoughts about him. So here's yet another friend in a public picture with Donovan Thomas, Kelvin Watts. What are their viewpoints on him? This is Zachary and Sledge publicly threatening him in 2015.
You little strip dip ass nigga.
We ain't really going back and forth no nigga.
You little bitch ass nigga.
I know
wanna
what we
see me?
hate.
I'm everywhere. Yeah, fuck you nigga, Cal. Whoever else, nigga. Well, nigga. Pop, pop, pop. Nigga. Whoa.
They said they ain't really going back.
Mr. Atkins, my
Apologies, I'll just use a okay. Can you hear me now? It just was too loud. Okay.
What y'all think, man? Are these bulls gonna be found guilty or what, man? What y'all think, man? They done got in there. What y'all think, man? They was talking real reckless on the social media, Instagram, Facebook, and they told on themselves. So I really think that the jury is gonna stick it to these two. And y'all let me know what y'all think, man. Y'all think they gonna beat this situation? Are they just gonna get up out of this? Because I don't think it's gonna go that way. It's so much evidence that these dudes help against themselves, and they were cooperating while they were in the street. They were literally in the street cooperating at the same time. And I guess they didn't think all this information was going to come out, because Shannon been told before, Yak been told before, and these are the two guys that are left going all the way to trial. This situation looked like it could be a win for him, but then it can look like it could be an L for him. And if you've been watching the trial, you'll see that they've been posting about YSL and repping what they've been doing and their beefs are back and forth. They've been posting it, so it's record. They went back and got all the record of these dudes posting and beefing and showing guns, and all they did was play it at their trial. And people got to understand that is what's going to happen every single time. When you post on social media and try to get recognition for being on go, and I say it's a flunky. I call it a flunky. If you on social media promoting that you ready to get busy for somebody else, basically, because they hollering they was repping YSL, so y'all was trying to get busy for somebody else. You wasn't even really protecting your own neck. You was trying to get busy for somebody else. So if you post on social media on some flunky time, this is what's going to happen. They're going to replay everything that you said, everything that you posted, and they're going to replay it. And when they replay it, right, you better understand what it is. How can you argue something that you already expressed to the world that you did? How can you argue with it? I don't even understand that. They made themselves easy to get convicted, man. And most of the time, these dudes is looking for so much attention. Like the prosecutor said, these dudes is wearing the gang tattoos on their face, repping the gang. How can you disassociate yourself with the gang at this point when all you did was rep the gang? All you did was let the world know what gang you're a part of, what you'll do to somebody. And then they got record of these dudes really busting guns and really doing stuff. Like, you already knew what this was going to be. I'm sure they should have knew. If they didn't know, in their gut right now, they're hoping to spank this case. They're hoping to cause doubt in somebody's mind to hopefully get it a mistrial, and then they can get back to another trial and maybe get a better plea. Because if they get a mistrial, they can get a better plea. And I'm going to be honest about that.
It's possible since we got a late start this morning. Can y'all move that a little bit because that's kind of blocking the defense's view of the jury.
Is this all right?
I don't know. Is that okay? Is that better?
The same, Your Honor, just now it blocks different jurors.
Okay, no, that's not better. Either move it way over here or way over there. Now I can't see the jury. That's not going to work. Put it way over there, maybe.
Well, I'm good. I'm talking about it.
I mean, that's fine, but
I'll put it, is that right?
that works. Sorry.
That's all right, Your Honor. Thank you.
I don't know who designs courtrooms, but I don't think they ask anybody who uses courtrooms. Jury ready? All right. They do, yes. Now we have 3 podiums, so. You can roll the screen over this way some, maybe, if you want them to be able to see them both. I don't know. Now's not the time. Let's do that at lunch. 30 more minutes or so. Thank you. I think that screen maybe stopped working halfway through. So the other one, either the one above or the one, I think the one below doesn't work, but the one above does. But they'll switch it up at lunch.
I guess they working on the sound. Yeah, I guess they working on the sound, trying to get the sound right, and it's acting up.
Thank you. All right, I think y'all probably saw that your lunch is there. We've got about 30 more minutes of Mr. Atkins opening, and then we'll break for lunch, and then we'll come back and hear the defense closings. Okay? All right, go ahead, Mr. Atkins.
We ain't really going. So we just saw that video right in 2015, and here we have the same picture, right? Kelvin Watts, Nut Life times 2, because you have Shamel Drinks, Kelvin Watts in this post, and that is the projectile that murdered Shamel Drinks, and the projectile that murdered Donovan Thomas. Same victims, right? You had Donovan Thomas with Lucci, and you saw how they treated Lucci. Now Donovan Thomas with Kelvin Watts, and you saw the connection. Similar victims over time with different YSL co-conspirators committing the crimes, often together. Not always the same, but similar patterns, which is important for RICO. Now, other connections. You heard about, and we got to take Buddy's name out of the song in case she gets whacked.
I fuck around and get whacked. You know that shit come down on us. Yeah.
Because it's going to come down on us. This lets you know that they try to toe the line to get right to where they can diss an op or say something but have some deniability. And then this is song. That's Garlington. Get shell whacked. It doesn't, yes, it's just a song, but when you're shooting and continuing to promote violence on the same people, that creates a pattern. And that was Demikion Garlington and DeMarco Boyer, who was those phone calls you heard about the night of Shamel Drinks' murder. So what other connections do we have? Well, if you keep going, we talked about this drug sale, right? This is Durante Beebe. Who was with him? Darius Ford, right? This is back in 2020 at, I believe, 151 Cleveland. There's Darius Ford. Now, you have, it should come up here. This is Rodelius Ryan and Durante Beebe, right? So remember this. Ford, Beebe, Ryan, it's like a 6 degrees of separation through different crimes. So follow me here. This is Darius Ford and Rodelius Ryan.
We right back running through this shit. Yeah, fuck wrong with y'all, nigga. We right back running through this shit. Fuck wrong with y'all. Yeah, peace and blessings. Gang, peace and blessings type shit. Peace and blessings.
This is Rodelius Ryan saying FYFN. Then you have Garlington, right? We got y'all boys. Ryan, Ford. This is Darius Ford. That's Christian Miller. That Garlington's posting, right? It's the YSL enterprise and how they view each other. And if you exact violence on one of them, they're all going to try, or if you get a rival or an op, it's for the gang. It's for the enterprise. And then if we keep going with this, this is 05 Driving Slim. This is Christian McMiller with Rodelius Ryan at Slime Business Rod, right? And he puts the heart emoji in the snake. Then you have Shannon Stillwell and Darius Ford, right? And then you have Garlington talking about spinning it every night.
When I smoke, we give not in bum
playing a song where in the mix of shooting Shamel Drinks, right? So yes, it's a song, but it has a different context when you know what they do.
Barbecue, none. We spin.
This is from Ryan's Instagram, right? Slap. This is SB. What's up? Using Garlington's Instagram to Rodelius Ryan, right? There's connections between the co-conspirators, and it shows a pattern where they commit crimes together. It may just be Darius Ford and BB selling drugs, but then it also may be shooting up all of these homes or murdering people, and they work in concert together. Now, it has to have, what is an enterprise, right? In this case, it's the criminal street gang. It's got to have a common purpose. It has to have a common kind of ongoing nature. It doesn't have to be a formal, like, employee roster or something like that. It can be a loose or informal relationship amongst them. It's as simple as that. You've seen how the way that YSL, the common identifiers, and the way that they act and speak in concert shows that they have, I would argue, more than a loose relationship with one another. In determining it, you can use the pattern to prove the enterprise. This is where the crimes themselves and how they're committed kind of help you in, is there an enterprise? Well, the way that they work in concert shows you that there is. And I misspelled, there's always one word in every slide, and I've checked this thing 20 times, so I apologize. Racketeering. I knew there'd be one. Okay. So, is this a RICO?
Right? Yeah, Uncle had wanted me to call you. The man got jumped on.
I know it. That's why I was telling y'all, last time I told you, I say when Lil Miles leaves the classification, make sure y'all tell him to hit so a nigga know
We
what's
called
going on.
you soon. He got up there, but see what Uncle was trying to see, and they were saying it was a mob nigga and some 9 dude niggas jumped on, bro.
Yeah, we just heard the same thing too. That's why we trying to figure out who the fuck up there mob and probably jumped in with some YSL niggas or some shit.
Yeah, that what Funk was trying to call you and see like who the hell that was.
So, do it for Phil, right? Trying to get protection is with, in the other car with Parmavius Nichols after the murder of Shamel Drinks. Talking about Unfunk, do it for Phil, the person who's hashtag top shotter, happy snake day at Slime Business Ride, is Miles Farley. The same person who's in the Ford Fusion with Parmavius Nichols when they're at the gas station and then pulls out behind Shamel Drinks, right? So you see this connection and support where when one goes in jail and someone tries to jump Farley, the gang gets protection. And they may use an allied gang. That's a pattern, and it's to further the enterprise because you don't want to get caught or get harmed. So take it a step further. This is Christian Eppinger, YSL Brish. That's Unfunk he's posting. Here's Eppinger, Wooney Lee, and BB, right? Only the Slimes all together. Now, when you have Unfunk, Garlington, and someone, so you have Eppinger in 2016 saying free Unfunk, right? Then in 2022, you have Christian Eppinger and Sumlin having that jail call to try to get Lucci, and then you have Unfunk and Garlington trying to get protection because YFN, the same group of Lucci, is trying to hurt Miles Farley. So there's connections between the acts. There's patterns and the interactions amongst each other. And if you take it a step further, then you have Wooney Lee with Shannon. You heard about No Slime Left Behind. Wooney Lee with Kendrick, actively promoting the gang. Yes, it may just be a photo, but when people think you murdered people, shot people, and got away with it, it has a different context to that. It has a much different context. What is Kenneth Copeland roughly 2 weeks before this indictment? How is he interacting, right? He comes up here like everything's in the past. This is Kenneth Copeland.
He heard somebody. Police been lock up 43, they got a 43-man indictment.
That what Funk said?
That what Toon said.
I don't know, he ain't told me that.
Yeah, he said that what he heard, but you know, he probably just talk, ain't no telling.
Yeah. What you think for what?
I had Jake out of what's the name of him?
What you think for what though?
He just said RICO, I guess.
RICO, I guess.
That's what he said. But I don't know how true it is. I told that shit, let's stay off Instagram.
Better stay off Instagram. Yeah. Not like RICO.
Yeah.
What RICO? I'm not a criminal enterprise, right? They're casually Copeland, and it kind of makes you think when he's in this witness stand, like, I'm a changed man or I don't hang out with them anymore, right? This is him in April 23rd of 2022. If you look at the indictment date, it's May 9th, 2022. That's 2 weeks before that indictment. And he's calling Garlington, who he said told him about what happened, that all of these two defendants when they murdered Donovan Thomas. think about that when you determine credibility in RICO. Taking it a step further, you have some.
No, listen, man. I just got.
Well, it's the call where he says he just got off the phone with Woody, and that YSL stuff is hot. You need to take that down, right? And then at the very end of that, and I won't play the whole thing, but it's in evidence, they say, we need to take that YSL because it's hot, get off social media, right? So that shows you that they know, they just don't want to get caught. This RICO conspiracy, this is your verdict form. When we talked about A and B, it's going to look like this. As to conspiracy to violate subsection A, we the defendant. A, acquire and maintain property, knowingly and willfully conspire. B is those objectives I talked about. Did you participate in the enterprise knowing and understanding that a pattern of racketeering, which remember, check the indictment for the crimes. Do you think that they knew, when these two defendants from January 10, 2015 onward, that there would be robbery, aggravated assault, intimidating witnesses? I mean, of course they did. But think about that when you look through this, because you have to decide, is it A or is it B? I believe it's both, but you can find either as a jury when you deliberate. And remember, some evidence can factor into both. The robberies can be A. The stolen guns can be A. They also can be a part of B when you create a pattern. And then on the bottom, it's going to ask you about guilty, guilty. Please identify on the next page the overt acts you find. So when y'all agree unanimously on an overt act, and you got to find one after May 10th, 2017, the good news is there's plenty that the state has proven happened after that date, so they shouldn't be hard to find. You write them down. And if you need to write 50, write 50. If you need a pen, ask the court reporter. She'll come bring you an extra pen if y'all need and run out of ink. But fill it out on the form after this, once you all deliberate and talk through the evidence. And you will find them guilty of the RICO enterprise when you look at the evidence and the common sense, reasonable inferences from all of it and some of these connections. I just gave you a few. I could do this 6 degrees of separation with multiple crimes throughout the case, but I tried to pick a couple to show you. And participation in treating activity, this is much simpler. You know, the RICO enterprise and the criminal street gang is one in part the same. Criminal street gang activity is there is a gang, YSL. Clearly the evidence has shown at this point that YSL is a criminal street gang, right? Are they a part of that street gang? Do they commit criminal street gang activity? For purposes of this indictment, the judge will instruct you that the street gang charges, the firearm possessed during the drugs for Kendrick and the murder of Shamel Drinks for Shannon Stillwell, both murder and possession of firearm during commission of a felony, which is the drugs, are criminal street gang activity. So all you really have to decide, in my mind, is there a nexus to the street gang? And I'm going to, this goes on to explain criminal street gang activity, which the judge will tell you that for these crimes, they are street gang activity. You just have to find Kendrick and Stillwell and the YSL street gang, which for all intents and purposes is the same as the criminal enterprise we've just been describing. And I'm going to, B is in order to maintain or increase status. So you'll see Shannon Stillwell has B. When he murdered Shamel Drinks, do you think that was in order to boost his YSL street cred and increase his status? Of course it was. He had no personal disagreement with Shamel Drinks. The only reason to murder him is because he saw all this public posting about get back, revenge, and he has that tweet I had earlier of up the score. That, when Shannon Stillwell committed that murder, it was to further the street gang. There's no other reason that makes any sense. And it would certainly boost his common signs, symbols, and tattoos. I only have a snippet. This is very similar to the first witness belt nap, right? Y'all have heard ample evidence of all these identifiers. You've heard about Slat, Slime, the lizard, the snake, the green, Copeland with the hand sign. Y'all are basically gang experts at this point, probably yourselves, because you've heard a lot about it. But it's important to show you the evidence over time. Tattoos, I've talked a lot about these. I think it's important to, you know, these permanent YSL lifestyle. This is Trontavia Stevens. That's Antonio Sumlin. That's Antonio Sumlin. That's the Diamante Kendrick. Slime Life, YSL. And then you have face tattoos, Javon Fleetwood. Then you have Walter Murphy's going to come up and Christian Eppinger. Public YSL tattoos on their face. Essentially a walking billboard for the enterprise. And if you commit a crime with that on your face, it's to help let people know this is from YSL. Going a little bit further, 3 or more members, clearly there's 3 or more. RICO was 2 or more. Gang, you need at least 3. So you can't have a gang of 2 under the law. It's the same principle. That block is easily checked as an element. This is just pictures of multiple. This is Rodelius Ryan adding all of the slimes. This is Kendrick, Copeland, Zachary, ball up them slimes back in 2014. And that's Trontavia Stevens, again, showing you how they publicly accept and acknowledge the gang, or at least when they're outside of a courtroom. Going further, this is Quindarius Zachary, November 6th, 2014. Well, I'll keep going, but it's the video y'all watch where he says YSLD, big bullets, and he's pointing a gun at a camera. That's just him publicly. And then firearms, right? This criminal street gang is armed constantly. These are some examples of acts where this is Shannon Stillwell with that firearm, Trontavia Stevens with this firearm. Going further, that's Christian Eppinger with a stock of guns. YSL Brisk, who said they want smoke, that's Zachary, still don't know any better. YSL Little D. They have these firearms because they use them. They're not sport hunting, they're not collecting them, they're shooting people with them, as you've seen repeatedly. This is Waters Road, the drum magazine, the double magazine where it's taped together. That was the stolen one from the cargo. I'm just showing you examples, and if you think about it, it's quite a lot of guns, either in photographs or physically introduced. Why do they need them? For the enterprise, and for the context of this, the street gang. This is from May 9th, 2022. All of the guns in the home. Again, 2022 and 2015, they all are stopped and have and use firearms. That's the violence. That's the tool for the street gang. More firearms. This is from Rodelius Ryan in the middle with 6 firearms. This is Zachary with an AK, Zachary with an AK. This is Shannon Stillwell with nothing compatible in the trenches but a carbine, right, in 2020, over at Act 115. Over and over and over, they show you we have guns, we use guns, we're not afraid to use it. Believe them. The evidence has shown it. Gang detectives, I'm not going to go through everything. I think you've heard a lot, right? And what they talked about was not fantasy. Gaither and Dennis, when they talked about getting woken up in the middle of the night with all of this 2015, they interviewed Walter Murphy. They interviewed Quindarius Zachary. They interviewed Copeland 6 times. Not an easy task. All of that stuff they did repeatedly. They didn't, and they all acknowledged. This is Jeffrey Williams. The cops asked them all. They know my business in all the jurisdictions. They all testified about YSL Street Gang, identifiers, identified members. Are they all wrong? Are they all just, Gaither and Dennis are just making up crimes? No. YSL is a criminal street gang as shown by their actions. And Detective Belknap discussed the origins of Rock Crew, how it became YSL. He also mentioned how YSL, the street gang he started hearing about in schools before the record label was formed, and the rival between YSL and Inglewood family. I just simple 2 words, or I guess it's 3. 2015 first wave. This is waves of violence and a tsunami of evidence about a criminal enterprise operating throughout. And the second wave, Viverito told you about it. She told you about all these back and forth shootings in 2019 and 2020, and she talked about what was going on in just 1 month, March of 2022. And all of these social media she was clipping by, it seemed like almost the hour, to show this public disrespect. Same group, same victims, same rivalry in YSL and YFN. Nothing has changed except time. That's how you know it's a criminal enterprise actively afloat. May 9th, 2022. So for Kendrick, he's with Duke, Martinez Arnold in 2015 when they're stopped by Trestle Tree. You've seen the photographs of the marijuana and the firearms. He's in Jeffrey Williams' house. This is in May of 2022. him actively having this arm protection, firearms, and being in a house and then running when the police come with 2 other identified, documented street gang members, it furthers the gang's interest to have multiple YSL members together, even in one of their own homes, because as you've seen, they're going to always be armed and have firearms. So all you have to decide, in my opinion, if you meet the other elements, is there a street gang? Is there 2 or more members? Is his possession of the marijuana and firearm, collective construction, which Ms. Hilton will talk to you about, in furtherance of the gang, and I'll argue that it is. Shannon, Stillwell's, when you talk about participation in criminal, I made it green to say found. Like I said, I don't need to belabor this much. I think it's quite obvious that Shamel Drinks is a textbook example of a gang murder, where they literally just shoot him because they happen to see him at a gas station. He's a rival, that they're following Kelvin Watts and other postings that are dissing or alluding to the murder of McMiller and Ford, and that's why he kills them. But you don't have a license to just kill who you want because they happen to be in an Instagram post or you think or they are associated with a rival gang. That's to boost his street cred within the gang. And then, every slime plays nasty. What does Rooney Lee say about that? Yeah, they can argue that they're just trying to watch the local basketball game on the nightly news.
And ESPN got bomb on me because we blowing niggas down.
He's got a gun and says ESPN because we're blowing people down. I mean, I don't know what else to say. This is Kendrick's tattoo. You're going to see this is Miles Farley. ESPN tattooed on the back of his neck. This is going to be Christian Eppinger coming up here. Rise and Slime, ESPN, and then I didn't clip it in there, but there's the song that Shannon Stillwell himself made where he literally says, every slime plays nasty. So these are common phrases, identifiers, and by nasty, they mean violence. You've seen it. Going a step further, is this a street gang? This is going to be Rooney Lee and Rodelia Slime.
Fake, man, yeah, man, gang shit, man, they know what the fuck going, man, yeah, man, slime business shit, man.
Slime
man, happy
business
birthday to me, man, really mean everything to me, man, shit on me for real. Can you get the only tattoo on me, man? Gonna say it again, nah, for real, no cap, nigga, slack, nigga. It been a minute since I seen it up. It been a minute since I seen it up. It been a minute since I seen it up. Where you from? Where your setup? Where I'm from? P10 Clark, ready winning and he bothered me. When it's under the streets, took a party. I wouldn't try to roll to a gangster.
Technology jacked up on me, but it's their own words, right? Rodelius Ryan, it's Slime Business, Slack, and Rooney Lee.
Sex money shit that's going on this set. I mean,
I'm the BDO. I'm the BDO of this sex money murder set. You heard Belknap, Gaither, and Dennis talk about the sex money murder, where YSL is a subset of that, right? It's their own words. They're not hiding from it. They're not slat on the finger. And then you're going to have again, Miles Farley, when the OGs don't feed, it boosts up the crime rate, right? They're actively telling you what they're doing, which was in Rodelius Ryan's Instagram. You all saw this video. Again, take them at their word. Don't just take mine.
Wipe your nose. Wipe your nose. Yeah. Big B. I know this shit. Little baby roll out. Little baby roll out.
Little baby rollout. Quick rollout for a small town.
They can't fucking bleed the slop in the fucking trenches, man. They fucking hate it. Right now, the trenches keep pistols. Like you
and they do keep pistols, and they do light people up, which means shooting at them. What is YSL about? I said the deception. You have the flash and the fame and the lifestyle, and it's all a joke. And then you have the reality of YSL street gang members exacting violence on members of their own community repeatedly over the years with impunity. The intimidation. I think y'all all know well what we've shown and walked through, the violence publicly about witnesses who come in and testify, the way that people gets YSL amnesia, as I call it, when they sit in the witness stand and they can't remember entire years of their life. It's not believable, except there's real fear and there's real trepidation to coming into a court and testifying. Destruction, I don't have to go on this long. It clearly has their actions and crimes have destroyed pockets of the communities in multiple communities in Fulton County. And death. You've heard about the murders that they've committed repeatedly. It's not just words. In Fulton County, you can get a driver's license, you can get a fishing license, but what you can't do as a criminal RICO enterprise is no one's above the law, and you don't have a license to kill, and you don't have a license to operate for impunity for a decade at citizens in Fulton County. Because it doesn't matter in Fulton County if you're the richest, if you're the poorest, it doesn't matter anything about who you are. You don't deserve to be victimized. And a criminal enterprise has a lot more power and strength. And the crime that they've done, the pattern, the evidence, the agreement that they've had publicly proclaiming it is clear. That this RICO enterprise is very real. It's not just, it's more than just a conspiracy. It's alive and active. They willingly and knowingly agree to it. And they don't think that anyone will hold them accountable. But as reasonable, fair-minded jurors, when you deliberate and walk through the evidence and you compare the evidence with the law from the judge, there's no conclusion but guilty on count 1 RICO. And I argue it's both subsection A and B, but that's for y'all to decide. And these crimes charged, the criminal street gang and RICO, I ask you guilty on all those counts. Ms. Hilt will talk to you after the defense, and we'll talk to you about why the defendants are guilty of the charged murders of Donovan Thomas and Shamel Drinks. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take our lunch break at this point. And let's take until 12:30.
We're going to come back at all right, man. They're going to come back at 12:30, and we're going to come back at 12:30, and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to see how this case go. The prosecution is laying out their closing arguments, and they're going to continue when they come back. Then you're going to have the defense also lay out their closing arguments. But these guys got a lot of evidence against them, even though there's some holes and some flaws in the case. They got a lot of evidence against them, and they was telling on themselves. So I don't think that they're going to be able to beat it. They might get found not guilty of a few things, but I really think they're going to definitely find them guilty of something, because there's too much evidence against them that they did and made on themselves. So the judge is definitely
to make sure that it includes whatever crimes might be alleged in the overt acts. So that's one change that's going to need to be made. All right, see y'all back.
Yeah. We're getting to the end of this YSL RICO case. And it's been going on for a while now. Almost a year. Yeah, it's almost been a year. And a few dudes took a plea. And they might have made out, because it could have got worse for them. And we're going to see how these verdicts come out for these two, because they could come out guilty. And if they're not guilty, you know, the guys that pled guilty are going to say, man, I should have went all the way. But if they're guilty, the guys that pled guilty and got probation are going to be happy that they took them deals and not tried to go ahead and fight it, because it's so much against them that they made against themselves, man. And you got to watch who you hang around, man. You got to watch your influence. You can't think that because somebody is in the industry that they're going to guide you in the right direction. Like, Thug really had these bulls on like a crash out mission. And honestly, they was on a straight crash out mission, and they was willing to do whatever to be a part of YSL. And ultimately, all this beef caused them all to fall. They could have did this better, man. But we don't be thinking like that. They was in position. They had the following. People watching them. But they didn't think that they needed to let the violence go. They thought that they was going to continue to lead this gang with violence. They're not going to allow you to lead it with violence. They allow you to do some things and get away with some things. But when it come to that violence, they're going to shut you down. Especially when you're a public figure. So, we all knew this was coming. And every time you see these different crews get together and they get to talking how these dudes talk, you already know what it is. This happens every single time, and people lose themselves looking for attention. And when you look for that attention, you get the attention you really don't want, which is this. And we see how hard every one of these dudes was before the trial, because they posted all the information from Instagram. Everybody was ready to go to war. But when you get in this situation here, it take the life out of you. It really breaks you down. It really does something to your soul. And these young boys ain't thinking about that until they in this situation. This is when the young boys want to start thinking like, I don't want to be a part of the gang. And now they don't want to rep it. They want to disassociate themselves. But it's too late when they get here. When you get to this point and you fighting for your life, it's too late. And Thug taking that plea of a 40-year deal with the 15 years probation, we gonna see how he holds up on that. I hope he understands that you have no room for error. Because sometimes we get a out and not understand the out. We think that it was supposed to be this way and it worked out, and you start saying God did this, and then they get back out doing the same exact thing that they did before they got in that situation, and it turns around and it bites them in the butt. So we gonna see how these all plays out. And you know that every time somebody get in a situation, they're going to update it. Especially if somebody that took a plea and they violated, they're going to update it. They're going to put them straight out there. If they get arrested for anything, any situation, they are going to put them out there. And I'm hoping that they understand that this is an out. And these are for the people that took pleas. These guys right here, it's overwhelmingly against them. Now, they got a shot on an appeal with the case because they held out and they fought. But they was on YouTube and Instagram telling about the beef they got with all these other guys. That's how you know they weren't real gangster. They was willing to shoot something. Anybody can do that. They were not real gangsters. They just was willing to bust their gun. And them doing that got them in this situation. They posted every time they had beef with people. Every time. So they got a record of any time anything went down. If somebody got shot and killed, they posted. If they got beef and they had words with somebody, they posted. To draw the attention, and they wasn't even getting paid for that attention. It's like, y'all was dumb. For real. Y'all posted all this information so that y'all can be used against yourself in trial. It wasn't smart at all, man. These YSL boys, man, should be an example for the youngins coming up. You young brothers coming up, y'all better understand. YSL should be the poster to let you know what not to do. You ain't going to be able to survive going out here thinking that you got beef and you want to go back and forth and post about it. It's going to end the same way every single time. Ain't nobody's situation in no different. You're going to go down when you start trying to post the beef. You start trying to go at the beef and you trying to let everybody know who you're beefing with and you're repping the gang. When they start repping them gangs so hard, they don't want nothing to do with them when they in court. How does that sound that you rep something so hard, you get all these tattoos on your body, on your face at that, and then when you get in a situation, you don't want nothing to do with it, but you got permanent markings on you that they're going to reference when it's time to go to trial. They're going to reference all the permanent markings you got on you, and they're going to identify what means what. So you make it easy. They made it easy to be put in this situation. They used the beef they had to allow them to take them out of position from beefing with all these different artists, and then you beefing with people in your area, people that you probably had relationships with at one time, and now you're on the internet trying to show other people the beef you got, and it cost you in trial. This is what happened. Them trying to show all the other people how much beef they got and how they'll put that work in is biting them right now. Because they went and used every post that they post to represent YSL, Bloods, any situation that they wanted to rep, they use it against them. And it's like, why do they continue to do this? Like these people are not going to go back and get your information that you posted. These internet postings, they don't go anywhere. They there forever. So what would make these people think that? Because they wasn't thinking. They thought that the internet was used for their beef. Let me use the internet for my beef and I'm going to get it solved. And all you did was build a case for yourself. These dudes built their own case. All of them. They didn't have no room to stand. They were all hoping for technicalities. And the guys that took those pleas, that's what happened. They all got technicalities. Okay, I'm out of this because of this. The state, they had strong cases, man, because these dudes gave all the information to them willingly. Get online and post about who you beefing with. Post about who got shot last night. Post about this. These guys was literally posting everything. And like they said with the one guy, he shot the cop for no reason. The crew is on the phone. They making all calls to all their crew members talking about he shot this cop and he ain't have to. They got these calls. The phone calls are all monitored and recorded. Are we going to understand that? Let's be real. The phone calls are all monitored and recorded. And they're going to go back to them. If you in jail, every call you make is recorded. And these dudes was calling home. They had people that they was calling home for, trying to make arrangements to get the hit on YFN Lucci on the jail phone. Now, come on, man. They telling he's on the pod with us right now. And then they tried to talk in code, though. This is what's crazy. You really tried to talk in code on a jail phone trying to deliver a direct message as if they weren't going to pick up what you were saying. They do this every day. They review these calls all the time. It's people getting calls used against them all the time. So you better know that these calls are monitored and recorded for real, because they know that it's going to help their case when you call home and try to deliver your message. These calls in jail are the calls that you really know are recorded. You might second guess some other calls, like, are these calls really recorded? No, those jail calls, they are recorded to the T. Detail. And they go back and review them. Even if you try to use somebody else's PIN number, Don't you know they got the game down packed where they're watching the cameras to see what you do if they want to check and see if you made a call to somebody on a certain day? And then they'll take and tap the other person's phone so that when you try to make the calls from other phones, they got the direct link. They know the person you're calling. But people don't be thinking like that, man. You can't think that you slicker than the system that they designed to put you in. And this is some real rap. Stop thinking that you're slicker than the system that they designed to put you in. It was a design to put you there to have your calls monitored so that they can make it easier for themselves in a case. This is why they don't want to let Diddy out. It's like, I want to be able to monitor every little thing he does and then use it against him. I can turn it around, make it seem the way I want it to seem, to use the case against him. We have to pay attention to this, man. This is the game, and it's designed for them to win. If you play their game, it's designed for them to win. You can't think you slicker than that system when you inside jail, man. And these dudes definitely made it easy for the state to present a case because they were on jail calls talking, Instagram talking, phones talking. And some of these dudes even had cell phones in jail. Like, come on, man. And we all know that Fulton County jail is out of control. I might even do something later on Fulton County jail because it's been years. I seen back like 6 years ago, they've been talking about how the jail was just totally out of control. And they still saying the same thing now. But one thing that they don't have a problem doing is getting those phone calls. We know that. Fulton County has no problem with getting a recorded phone call from the jail. And dudes better understand that they are monitoring your call. Yeah, I don't know, man. And it's like I was saying that Thug should have went all the way to trial. Like, because that's me. I'm going all the way to trial. That's just me. I'm thinking Thug should have went, but then I'm like, man, on the other hand, all the evidence against him, the jury might have just came back and said he was guilty of the RICO because all these dudes was under him. Everybody that committed the crime, they were influenced by him. He was the star. So he might not have got away with the RICO, even though some other things was questionable. And we might look at it like, man, he was not guilty of everything because we questioning some of the things. But that's a jury you got to depend on. These are other people now. You don't know how somebody feeling about we don't know how they feeling. You know what I'm saying? We don't know. They might say, yo, he's just guilty just because. But at the same time, all the evidence that was against him, it's like overwhelming. We got to pay attention, man. And obviously, man, a lot of us make a wrong decision following other people. People will break you and people can make you. But following the wrong people will destroy you. And that's real. And I'm sure they all looked up to Young Thug because he made it and he was in the best position. But people in the best position, sometimes they're not a good influence. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes they just out for themselves. That don't mean that they're a good influence because they're rich and because they're influential. They could be just out for self and using you to do what they want to do to get where they want to get. And honestly, you know, Thug said at his sentencing that he was just too nice. And this is what he says. He says that he was too nice and this is why things happen. But he was keeping that energy. He wanted to set the tone with people. Even when he was in the airport and got questioned about some things being in line and the people wanted him to move a certain way, he got real cocky and started like flashing the money in the lady's face. And, you know, you got to be humble still, because you can go ahead and try to be cocky to people, but your downfall can be right there waiting. You understand what I'm saying? You can be cocky, you can be disrespectful to people, but you better know that sometimes things turn around. And we see here that it was a change for all of them, especially Thug. So he like kind of like in my eyes, if he knew he was guilty, he had to take the plea. This is in my eyes. Knowing that if you guilty, you better go ahead and take that plea. Don't play around, especially when you facing a life sentence. You know, he was facing a life sentence and got time served. Man, he was blessed. And I'm not going to say that was God. Like, we already know. It's like a lot of people try to use that as God. That wasn't God. He got blessed. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't God. Because if you heard some of the things that they said he was doing and we was into, like, you can't tell me that God is just working on this side, and when you over there, it's like, I can't go for that. He just got blessed. The technicalities, the things happened, the trial went crazy left, and he got blessed. And I'm going to be real with that. That is an out that you won't get multiple times. That out right there is something that is not happening every day. I've never heard of in the middle of a RICO trial that you get a plea to time served and probation. I've never heard nothing like that. In the middle of the RICO trial. No, at the end. Because this was just a couple weeks ago that Thug took the plea. And now they're at closing arguments and the trial is going to end in November. This is a shock to the whole entire world that the trial is ending in November. I'm sure everybody thought the trial was going to 2025. For real. Because I thought the trial was going to go 2025. I said, man, these dudes here are going to be sitting here forever. And you never know how these trials will go. You never know that. It could go on their side, it can go against them. But they was getting offered 25-year plea deals. That's because they was the guys that they said did the murders. If they saying you doing the murders, they ain't trying to offer you nothing less than 25, especially with multiple murders. They had multiple murders, man. And the people that was talking on the phone was identifying them. Identifying that things happen. That's what that phone do. You get to talking on that phone, people going to identify. And they get to talking real loosely on them phones, man. You got to be mindful. They going to come back and get you. All these electronic devices, all this stuff is recorded, man. And it's like kept forever. They not getting rid of that. When they want to go dig and get it, they going to go dig and get it, especially for murder. They going to get the evidence they need off your phone, you calling somebody. You know, I think the only thing that they don't get is FaceTime. That's what I think. The only thing that they don't get is the FaceTime, man. But everything else, they going to go back and get that. And I think that they can see the times that you made the FaceTime call, but they just can't get the record of the FaceTime. So some of these dudes was doing FaceTime, but then after they do FaceTime, they would get upset and go jump on Instagram and holler at the Instagram. Oh, man, you F nigga this, you that. Oh, man, when I see you, I'm going to do this to you. Like, they was giving the threats across the internet as if they couldn't get in trouble. I'm not understanding that, though. I don't understand that one bit. Why these dudes make these threats, go do these hits, and think that's nothing's going to happen to them. Anybody talking about they going to put some money on somebody and then somebody die, they coming to see you. Let's be real. If you yell online that somebody is going to get the bag put on their head and somebody going to die, and soon as something happens to that person, they coming to see you. Because everybody's letting them know that this is what you said. And we got to be real. But yeah, man, I'm gonna come back in a little bit, and we're gonna finish streaming this closing arguments in a little bit. And I really appreciate everybody who watches the channel. I hope y'all subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, man. You know, it's your boy DZ, man. It's not about the setback. It's about the get back. Nah.